Chapter 495. On the top floor of the square building, the huge room that occupied an area of more than 200 square meters was like a huge bar. Colorful laser lights shone in the room. The room was filled with an intoxicating fragrance that made people dizzy. It was the evil smell of drugs that lingered in the air after taking drugs. The room was covered with a thick carpet. Around the room were several pieces of expensive and luxurious armor, antiques, and exquisite porcelain. There were also two murderous-looking heavy machine guns placed on a cabinet in the room. On the table in the room, there were wine bottles, drugs, gold necklaces, and scattered euro banknotes. A few women in revealing clothes were lying on the carpet like mollusks. Their limbs were stretched out horizontally, and their entire bodies were wriggling gently. It was as if they had fallen into a drug-induced hallucination and were unable to extricate themselves. Everything in the room was filled with the aesthetic aura and taste of a second-rate gang. The boss of BG Gang, Oni, was sitting on a huge sofa in the room. Oni was half-naked and had a cigar in his mouth. There was a thick gold necklace around his neck and a branded watch and gold bracelet on one of his arms. His eyes were cold and violent. He was holding a pitch-black grenade with a handle in his hand and was looking at it over and over again. After Paris fell into chaos, the originally muscular gangster who had been born on the streets had become a little bloated after 2 years of drunken stupor. The snake tattoo on his head, cheek, and neck was no longer as lean as before. However, such a life filled his entire body with an evil and rotten aura. Such an aura made many ordinary people feel afraid. Beside Oni was a golden-haired, bespectacled Caucasian man with an indifferent expression. He was holding a glass of wine in his hand and was sitting beside him. Compared to Oni's unrestrained behavior, this man was unusually restrained. A woman was lying by his feet and was kissing and caressing his calf. However, he kicked her away in disdain. "Serene, how did they get their hands on this Russian black lemon? This is a military item. It's a cloud explosive grenade that those perverted Russians created specially to deal with space invading monsters. It's rare to see such a thing in Paris. I've seen it in the black market before. Just one of these grenades can turn this room into pieces with a bang." Oni made a gesture and laughed heartily. After sizing up the series of Russian letters on the black grenade, he casually placed the cloud explosive grenade back into the box on the table. There were quite a lot of banknotes scattered on the table. In the middle of the table was a box. Inside the box were 6 of these grenades. I don't know where they got them. Perhaps they have external channels. However, if they have these things, the Chinese community and wholesale market in the 11th district won't be able to hold on. The Butcher and Sasa have already agreed that as long as we are willing to participate in the war, they will give us half of the goods in those wholesale markets. They will also give us 200 of the captured women in a street in the 11th district. Only half of it. Oni's voice rose a little. He began to sneer greedily and viciously. "Tell them that I can consider 20% of it." The Chinese community is a tough nut to crack. It seems that they have more than one summoner. Apart from us, the Butcher and Sasa have also contacted other people. I'm afraid that they won't be able to take out so many things. I heard that the people from a Blood Moon have already agreed. This time, they're going to play big. The Blood Moon has already agreed? Oni immediately sat up straight. His expression was somewhat solemn. The Blood Moon has 2 summoners. Yes, and those people from the Jackal Gang. Therefore, if we don't participate, we might not even get half of it. Serene said calmly. Oni frowned. Where are they going to act? 3 days later, everyone will launch a general attack to wipe out the Chinese community in the 11th district. If this operation is successful, we can form an alliance that can fight against the People's Front. I think we should consider it carefully. These days, the friction between us and the People's Front has become more and more intense. Sooner or later, there will be a conflict. The Butcher and Sasa should also feel threatened. Don't forget that the Chinese who killed many of our people a few days ago had once eaten at Chez Terroir restaurant. Speaking of this, a trace of murderous intent flashed in Oni's eyes. He fiercely pressed the cigar on the naked shoulder of the woman under his feet. The woman screamed in pain from a burn and was then kicked away. "Have you found that bastard? I want to eat him raw." Not yet. That Chinese has disappeared these few days. There is no trace of him. He might have already run away. Just then, there was a knock on the door. Upon hearing the knock, Oni laughed. He used his eyes to signal the two underlings standing at the door to open the door. He even licked his lips and laughed. Serene, there are 2 new goods delivered tonight. Do you want to have a taste? What I like most is the realm pearl, not women. Serene had already stood up. He knew what was going to happen next, so he was ready to leave. One of the underlings standing at the door looked out through the peephole. When he saw that it was one of his own standing outside the door, he opened the door. However, when he opened the door, he saw that the bodyguard standing outside the door had a blank look in his eyes. The woman was not there either. The underling who opened the door was slightly stunned. Just as he was about to say something, a hand suddenly stretched out from behind the bodyguard. The hand was holding a dagger. The sharp dagger immediately cut open the bodyguard's neck and trachea. The underling who opened the door immediately clutched his neck and fell down. The bodyguard who was standing at the door also fell down. Xiao Pingan suddenly rushed in from behind the bodyguard who was standing at the door. "Who's there?" Oni realized that something was wrong. He roared and reached out to grab the gun on the table. The dagger in Xiao Pingan's hand had already flown out. The dagger turned into a ray of cold light and directly hit the head of BG Gang's boss, Oni. The sharp dagger pierced through Oni's right eye until the hilt was gone. Oni died instantly. The underling standing on the other side of the door was also shocked. When he was about to pull out his gun, Xiao Pingan had already jumped up. He clamped his legs around the underling's neck and twisted it. His entire body flipped in the air like a python turning its body. The underling who was about to pull out his gun had his neck broken by Xiao Pingan's legs. Xiao Pingan, who was flipping in the air, used his left hand to support himself on the ground. Before his body landed, he had already bounced up from the ground. The moment he entered the door, Xiao Pingan killed 3 people consecutively. BG Gang's boss, Oni, and the 2 bodyguards at the door were all killed. However, there was another person in the room. Xiao Pingan's feet had just touched the ground when a scorching fireball suddenly flew toward him. This fireball was actually very fast. It was not slower than Xiao Pingan's flying dagger. It was abnormally swift and violent. Fireball technique. A summoner, Serene, who had already stood up, aimed one hand at Xiao Pingan and released a high-temperature fireball. Gabriel had said that Oni had a bodyguard named Serene who had already fused 2 realm pearls. Now, it seemed that Serene had not only fused 2 realm pearls, but had also completed the foundation establishment stage. Gabriel's information was already outdated. As soon as he entered the door, Xiao Pingan, who was already prepared, suddenly leaned to the side. As he dodged the fireball, he raised his hand and spat out a series of bullets at Serene with his HK 416C. Serene's fireball would cause a huge commotion, so it did not matter if he opened fire now. Could a summoner who had just built his foundation avoid bullets? Could he be invulnerable? The answer was no. A summoner who had just built his foundation establishment stage was physically stronger than an ordinary person. He was about the same as a special forces soldier in the army. In Xiao Pingan's eyes, a summoner was actually very easy to kill. A gun was enough. Serene wanted to dodge, but what Serene did not know was that he was not facing an ordinary killer, but an extremely powerful summoner. Xiao Pingan had already made an accurate judgment of Serene's physical fitness and the limit of his ability to react. The flames and bullets spat out by the HK 416C had already sealed off all of his escape routes. As soon as the gunshots rang out on this floor, it alarmed the people on the floors below. Chapter 496. The fireball that Serene threw out was scorching hot. It brushed past Xiao Pingan's figure and landed on the door of the room. With a loud bang, a basin-sized hole appeared on the door behind Xiao Pingan. The door quickly burst into flames. At the same time, Xiao Pingan's bullets hit Serene, who was trying to roll to the side to avoid the bullets. He was bleeding all over and fell down like a sieve. Serene, who had a bullet in his forehead, died with his eyes wide open. He had never thought that he would die in such a worthless way, dying under gunfire. This killer who suddenly barged in seemed to be able to predict how he would dodge his shots. Within 2 seconds, all 4 members of the BG gang in the room were dead. Xiaoping's gunshot also alarmed the entire building. Ding-ling-ling. The entire building suddenly rang with the sound of fire bells. The burning door of the room triggered the fire alarm system in the building. The automatic fire control system on the ceiling began to spray water. It looked like it was raining in the room. Ha ha! All the women in the room burst out into laughter as if they didn't know what was happening in the room. 2 women even stood up and started to dance under the spray of water like crazy. Xiaoping quickly made his way to Oni, who was lying on the sofa. Bang! Bang! He fired 2 more shots into Oni's body and tore off the gold ornaments and watched from Oni's neck and hands. Next, he took the cloud explosive grenades, euros, and other valuable items and stuffed them into his backpack. Next, he walked to the front of a heavy machine gun in the room. Lifting the heavy machine gun with one hand, he walked out the door. This heavy machine gun was a German-produced MG5. There was a huge drum on the machine gun. The drum was filled with yellowish 7.62mm machine gun bullets. With the heavy machine gun in his hand, he loaded it with 2 clicks. The safety was adjusted to the position where it could fire continuously. The entire floor was spraying water. Xiaoping calmly walked through the water curtain and the corpses in the corridor outside the room. He arrived in front of the elevator that led to this floor and waited quietly. The elevator that led to the top 3 floors was an independent elevator. The other elevators couldn't reach it. The numbers on the elevator door were changing, indicating that there was an elevator going up from the ground floor. As soon as the elevator stopped at this floor, before the elevator door opened, Xiaoping opened fire with the heavy machine gun in his hand. Dong, 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 dong. The MG5 in Xiaoping's hands roared coldly. In a split second, bullets pierced through the curtain of rain sprayed by the fire protection system and shot toward the elevator, riddling the elevator door with thousands of holes. Bronze-colored bullet casings were scattered around Xiaoping's feet. The MG5 was firing at a rate of more than 10 bullets per second. 3 to 4 seconds later, amidst the continuous roars of the machine guns, the elevator let out a melodious sting. Sound. The elevator door, which was riddled with holes, finally opened. There was no one left standing in the elevator. More than 10 BG gang members were lying in the elevator, covered in blood. The inside of the elevator was like a slaughterhouse. Xiaoping came to the elevator and took out a cloud explosive grenade from his backpack. He placed the grenade under one of the corpses and set up a booby trap. Then, he pressed the down button and walked out of the elevator. The elevator door closed once again. Along with the dead bodies in the elevator, it headed downstairs. In addition to this elevator, there was also a staircase that led to the top floor. Xiaoping walked to the entrance of the staircase. He threw away the heavy machine gun in his hand, opened the door, and waited quietly. Half a minute later, chaotic footsteps could be heard from the staircase below. Xiaoping looked down and saw more than 10 BG gang members rushing towards the top floor. Xiaoping chuckled. He took out his HK-416C and opened fire. In an instant, 3 people were knocked down. In the next second, all kinds of bullets were shot up from below. The walls and floor of the staircase were smashed into pieces. The BG gang members were yelling and shouting. Xiaoping did not show his head again. He took out a cloud explosive grenade made by the Russians. After unlocking the safety, he threw it down the stairs where the gunshots were the most intense. Boom! Amidst the violent explosion, a ball of fire gushed up from the staircase. Xiaoping hurriedly rushed out of the staircase. The thick smoke and flames from the explosion brushed past his hair. The gunshots below immediately stopped. Although the cloud explosive grenade was not as terrifying as the individual cloud explosive grenade that Xiaoping had used before, it was still extremely powerful in this kind of battle. Just as the explosion was heard, a loud rumbling sound came from the elevator shaft. The booby trap that Xiaoping had set up was triggered. Who knew how many people were killed? After leaving the staircase, Xiaoping followed the rain-soaked corridor to another room on the floor. He opened the door. In the room, there was a bald BG gang member's corpse. There were also 2 women with their hands tied and their mouths taped. They were squatting in the room, shivering. These two women were the ones who had been brought into the building. These two women had also heard the commotion outside. Just now, they had seen Xia Pingan kill someone in front of them. When they saw the masked Xia Pingan coming in with a gun, the two women were so scared that they were shivering. Xia Pingan tore off the tape on their mouths and used a dagger to cut off the ropes that bound their hands. He said to them in French, "Leave this place immediately. Go down the stairs and find a place where there is no one around to hide. BG gang will be in chaos soon. No one will be able to take care of you. Then, you will find a chance to escape." Thank you. The two women probably felt that Xia Pingan was not a bad person. Follow me. I will take you to the staircase. Xia Pingan turned and walked out of the room. He walked toward the staircase. The two women followed behind Xia Pingan, trembling in fear. When they arrived at the staircase, they heard footsteps coming from below. Someone was coming up. Wait a moment, Xia Pingan said to the two women. Without further ado, he took out a cloud explosion grenade and threw it down. Boom! Flames and thick smoke gushed out from the bottom of the stairs again. The world was peaceful again. All right, we can go down now. There are a lot of miscellaneous items on the third floor below. There are also many empty rooms. It is easy to hide there. You can hide there temporarily. The two women gritted their teeth and ran down the stairs. Xia Pingan watched as the two women ran downstairs and turned out of the staircase. Then, he returned from the staircase. He closed the door of the staircase and locked it. Xia Pingan finally heaved a sigh of relief when he used the MG5 as a door bolt to block the door handle on both sides of the door. The elevator was blown up, the staircase was blocked, and there was no leader. The BG gang members downstairs were probably in a mess and would not be able to come up in a short period of time. Xia Pingan returned to the room where he had killed Oni. The fire on the burning door of the room had been extinguished by the fire protection system. The floor was wet, and the women in the room were still in a state of hallucination after taking drugs. Xia Pingan did not pay attention to the women. Instead, he searched the room carefully. Just now, he only looted the valuable items on the table. As the place where the boss of the BG gang lived, there should be other valuable items in the room. He could not miss them. Even the valuable items on Serone's body were taken away by Xia Pingan as he cleaned up the battlefield. In a cabinet in the room, Xia Pingan found hundreds of thousands of euros in cash. There were also a few large boxes of jewelry and watches from the jewelry store and watch store that the BG gang had robbed. These items still had labels on them. Xia Pingan put all these items into his backpack. When he felt that it was about time, Xia Pingan left the room and went up to the top floor. Then, he climbed down along the wall of the building. Just now, a few cloud explosion grenades had exploded in the building. Many floors of the building's intelligent fire protection system had started working on its own. Furthermore, it had automatically cut off the building's power supply. At this moment, the square building was pitch black. Xia Pingan had an easier time leaving. After climbing down from the top floor of the building, Xia Pingan disappeared into the darkness in the blink of an eye. At this moment, the BG gang was in chaos. There were no guards outside the building. They were just a motley crew. Chapter 497. In the darkness, when Xia Pingan arrived at the place where he and Emily had parked their car, he saw Emily standing outside the car, holding a flashlight in one hand and a baseball bat in the other. A homeless man had collapsed in the alley beside the car, hugging his leg and wailing. Xia Pingan silently appeared from the darkness and came to Emily's side. Then, he deliberately made a little noise, scaring Emily. As soon as she turned around, the flashlight shone in Xia Pingan's eyes. Xia Pingan grabbed the flashlight and took it. Realizing that it was Xia Pingan who had returned, Emily heaved a sigh of relief. It had been less than an hour since Xia Pingan had left. What's wrong? Xia Pingan glanced at the homeless man on the ground and asked. The homeless man was sloppy and wore a lot of tattered and greasy clothes. He was an old man, and one could smell the strange smell on his body from 2 meters away. In Paris, there were many homeless men like him. This homeless man wanted to break the car window to spend the night in the car. When he found out that I was in the car, he wanted to harass me. I beat him up. Emily said, "Not bad. You're quite brave. Get in the car." Xia Pingan didn't care about the homeless man anymore. He opened the car door and got into the driver's seat. He threw his backpack on the back seat. Emily also got into the car. Xiao started the car. The old Citroën didn't turn on the lights. It quickly drove onto the street and left quickly. Sitting in the car, Emily secretly looked at Xiao side profile. Just now, she had actually heard the explosion and fierce gunshots coming from the square building. Then, the lights in the building went out. She knew that it was Xiao who did it. This gave her an unprecedented excitement in her heart. Walking in the darkness, single-handedly crushing those evil scum one by one. It was too cool. Emily's heart surged with excitement that she didn't even know where it came from, causing her adrenaline to soar. Yes, I'm his apprentice and companion. I also participated in tonight's operation. I prepared and guarded the transportation for him. Thinking of this, Emily found that she quickly entered the role in front of her. Is it done? Emily asked carefully. Yes, it's done. Xiao calmly nodded as he drove. Emily finally found the bulging backpack in the back seat. She remembered that Luo and didn't bring these things with him. She curiously took the bag, opened it, and exclaimed. There were dozens of brand new euros in the bag, as well as a lot of branded watches and jewelry. She picked up a branded watch and looked at it. The watch was inlaid with hundreds of diamonds, dazzling her eyes. She recognized this watch. The price tag on the watch was still hanging. The price tag on the watch was 28 million euros. Before Paris fell, she had seen such a watch in the top branded watch store in Paris. Emily's family was considered rich in Paris, but such a watch, even when her parents were still alive, was something she could only dream of. A person who could buy €1 million watch could no longer be called rich, but a real rich person. Be careful, there's a cloud explosive grenade in the bag. Xiao, who was driving, glanced at Emily. Where did these things come from? Emily asked. What do you think? I just robbed BG gang on the way. These things will only bring more pain to the people in the hands of those bastards from BG gang. I've done a good deed, Xiao said indifferently. To Xiao, the things in the bag were just resources needed for survival. As for the branded watches, gold jewelry, and banknotes, they were nothing. If he multiplied all the things in the bag by 10 times and converted them into gold coins, would it even be 100,000 gold coins? What was there to be excited about? As for the gems, the watermelon-sized diamonds in the underground of the undead city were not rare. In the eyes of a summoner, diamonds were just carbon crystals underground, very ordinary things. If his top-grade soul-stabilizing pearl was converted into gold, and then gold into banknotes, he could probably buy the whole of Paris. If you like this watch, I'll give it to you. Do you know how much this watch costs? Emily asked. It's not important to a summoner. Xiao shook his head as he glanced at the fuel gauge in the car. Do you know where we can refuel? This car is running out of fuel. You'd better refuel it. Oh, let's buy some food. At the mention of buying food, Emily's eyes started to sparkle. I know. It's near the boulevard in the east of Pierrefitte. There's a Civic Union gas station, a supermarket, a department store, and a tailor shop. You could buy a lot of things there with euros. Other than being a little expensive, everything else is good. Civic Union? It's an organization formed by retired soldiers and policemen in Paris. They have channels to get a lot of things from the outside world. They also have patrol teams, helicopters, and ships. They control water plants and photovoltaic power plants. Many places around Pierrefitte are under their jurisdiction. 2 hours later, when Xiao drove the old Citroën back to Emily's villa, the fuel tank of the old Citroën was already full. The back seat and trunk of the car were filled with all kinds of things that they had bought. The car was almost full. The villa area was very quiet. Only the barking of dogs in the neighboring courtyards could be heard. When the door of the villa was opened, Emily's shepherd dog darted out. After driving the car into the villa's parking lot and closing the door, Emily seemed to heave a huge sigh of relief. They had bought a lot of food in the car. Bread, jam, vegetables, beef, lamb chops, fish slices, shrimps, cream, milk, juice, chocolate, red wine, mineral water, rice, and all kinds of other things. It was enough for them to eat for a week. If it was in the past, these things would have cost about 1,000 euros. However, at this moment, they had spent over 30,000 euros on these things. Apart from that, Emily also bought cosmetics for herself and a pile of clothes and daily necessities for Xiaopingan. In Emily's villa, there was a huge fridge. The things they bought filled the fridge to the brim. On the roof of Emily's villa, there was a huge photovoltaic panel. It was self-sufficient and provided the villa with the power it needed every day. After returning home, Xiaopingan started cooking. He fried the steak, opened the red wine, and made a delicious thick soup. Emily had thought that the atmosphere of this meal would be very romantic. She had even lit candles on the dining table. Before eating, she had even taken the time to change her clothes and put on makeup. She wore a beautiful low-cut dress and beautiful earrings, looking like the mistress of a castle. However, when she saw that Xiaopingan had lowered his head and was engrossed in wolfing down the food, as though he had completely ignored his own beauty, Emily was dumbfounded. He had eaten almost 500 grams of steak in a short while and did not seem to be full. In this man's eyes, she, who was youthful and beautiful, could not even compare to a medium-rare steak with streaks of blood in it. Emily's confidence suffered a huge setback in front of Xiaopingan's appetite. Emily finally could not help but bite her lips. "Teacher, are all summoners so good at eating?" Not necessarily. My appetite has been very good these few days. I like to eat more." As Xiaopingan spoke, he cut another large piece of steak and put it into his mouth. Then, he drank 2 full glasses of red wine. The high-calorie food allowed the fusion of the spirit body and this body to be supported by energy, and it could proceed smoothly. If Tsang Jie could fuse with the realm pearl, his strength would be able to make a breakthrough. Moreover, he would have a space warehouse. That would be even more convenient. It would not be a problem to carry a few missiles with him. For Xiaopingan, eating was a mission. When he was finally full, Xiaopingan wiped his mouth and stood up. Looking at Emily, who had just finished half of the steak on her plate, he said, "Emily, I'll leave this to you. I'm going to rest. You don't have to dress so formally at home in the future. You can be more casual. Clean up the activity room tomorrow morning. I'll teach you the most basic fighting skills in the activity room." After saying that, Xiaopingan turned around and returned to his guest room. Looking at Xiaopingan's back, Emily hatefully stabbed the table knife into the steak and cut it into 8 pieces. In the next 2 days, Xiaopingan did not go anywhere. He obediently stayed in Emily's villa and ate big meals every day. He allowed his spirit body to fuse with this body continuously. At the same time, he took time to exercise his body and teach Emily some techniques to train her body and fight. He tortured Emily so much that she no longer had the mood to wear beautiful clothes and dress up. The recovery effect of these 2 days was astonishing. After 2 days, Xiaopingan's strength had quietly recovered to the level of a 2-sun realm. A 2-sun realm summoner was already a monster in this chaotic city of Paris. Because the summoners on Earth did not have the Holy Spring, they had already reached a fork in the road of no return. It was just like how Xiaopingan had been at the Committee of Order, and how the Committee of Order had divided the summoner's strength. This world was used to dividing the summoner's realms into First Essence Realm, Second Essence Realm, and Third Essence Realm. Xiaopingan's 2-sun realm required at least 1470 points of divine power. From the secret mandala's divine power value, he was equivalent to a 7th Essence Realm Summoner on Earth. In terms of actual combat strength, Xiaopingan could easily crush a 7th Essence Realm Summoner on Earth, whether it was in terms of physical strength or the output of spells. A 2-sun Realm Summoner would have 2 suns rising in their secret mandala, and there would be many changes. On the other hand, a 7th Essence Realm Summoner on Earth would not have a single sun in their secret mandala. This kind of difference was comprehensive. The further one progressed, the greater the difference. At noon on the 3rd day, it started to drizzle in Paris. In the rain, Xiaopingan once again went to Chez Terroir restaurant alone. Chapter 498. Undying Sea. At the bottom of the sea, near the isolated island full of giant conch shell fragments, Lu Yiqian, who was locked in the cage, was actually restless. A day after Xiao Pingon started using the cloning secret technique, Lu Yiqian became restless in the cage. At first, he pretended to be dead. He didn't move for 7 or 8 hours, lying stiffly in the cage. He found that no one was paying attention to him. Then, Lu Yiqian began to let out ear-piercing screams in the cage. He slapped the cage, letting the screams reverberate in the conch shell. He found that no one was paying attention to him. After tossing and turning for a long time, Lu Yiqian confirmed one thing. The person who brought him here was most likely cultivating at this moment. He might be fusing with the realm bead or cultivating a secret technique. He had no time to pay attention to him. This was his chance. However, how could he escape from this cage? Even if he could leave the cage, how was he going to face this guy who was guarding the cage? The silver spider puppet squatted in front of the cage, staring at him motionlessly with wide eyes. For more than a day, this silver spider puppet was like an indifferent machine. No matter how Lu Yiqian tossed and turned in the cage, that silver spider puppet didn't move at all. That indifferent spider puppet made Lu Yiqian feel a huge pressure. If this silver spider puppet was a person, something with high intelligence, Lu Yiqian felt that he should be able to fool it. But this thing was a spider puppet that only knew how to carry out orders. This made him a bit scratch his head. Against such a spider puppet, no words or tricks would work. As soon as he walked out of the cage, he would be attacked by this spider puppet. But staying in the cage and waiting for an unknown fate wasn't Lu Yiqian's style. After thinking about it, Lu Yiqian felt that he should take a gamble. At least, he had to think of a way to open the cage first. When he had the ability to leave the cage, he would slowly think of other ways. He didn't believe that this spider puppet would keep guarding the cage. After making up his mind, Lu Yiqian, who had transformed into a monkey, took action. The cage containing him was an iron cage surrounded by thumb-thick steel bars. It was impossible for a monkey to bend such steel bars. What made Lu Yiqian even more miserable was that the cage was not locked by a lock. If it was a lock, he could find a way to open it with special skills or ingenuity. But in fact, the iron cage was locked by thumb-thick steel bars. The thumb-thick steel bars were twisted into a twisted shape by a huge force and locked the door of the iron cage. Such a lock did not require any skill. It could only be opened by brute force, simple, crude, and effective. It could make a monkey completely despair. Lu Yiqian was a ruthless person. Even if he was turned into a monkey, he was still a ruthless monkey. No matter what, he had to give it a try. Under the gaze of that spider puppet, Lu Yiqian opened his mouth, closed his eyes, and fiercely knocked his mouth against the steel bars of the iron cage. Once, twice, thrice, 4 times, a mouthful of blood spurted out from Lu Yiqian's mouth, splashing onto the iron cage. Finally, under this almost self-harming effort, Lu Yiqian successfully knocked out 3 of his front teeth. He held the front teeth that still carried the blood from his mouth, looking at the puppet spider that was staring at him without reacting at all, a sinister smile on his face. The spider puppet's intelligence was still unable to understand his current actions. After eating a fasting pill and recovering a bit of energy, Lu Yiqian took action. He tightly pinched his teeth and used them like knives, grinding them against the steel bars of the cage. Although the steel bars were hard, under the grinding of his teeth, there would still be traces left behind. It could also be broken. Rustle, rustle, rustle. For a moment, the entire conch shell was filled with the sound of teeth scraping against the steel bars of the iron cage. Lu Yiqian's hands swelled and blisters appeared. The blisters burst and began to bleed. Blood stained his teeth and the steel bars. He continued to grind, clenching his teeth and persevering with his life. He did not give up because he knew that this was practically his only chance to turn the tables. That tooth was getting shorter and shorter, and that clear trace on the steel bars was getting deeper and deeper. Finally, after about half a day, that tooth was completely worn out. Lu Yiqian began to grind with his second tooth. When his second tooth was worn out, he used his third tooth to grind. After grinding for 3 days, when the third tooth was about to disappear, when Lu Yiqian's hands were so swollen that he couldn't lift them anymore, and when the entire monkey was completely exhausted, the gap on the steel bar finally broke with a crack. Lu Yiqian was overjoyed and almost burst into tears. Finally, there was a reward. This steel bar was finally broken. As long as the other end of the steel bar was ground off or pried open bit by bit to reveal the crack, he would be able to leave this damned cage. But in the next second, Lu Yiqian's pleasantly surprised expression completely froze, because he saw that the iron cage that imprisoned him suddenly lit up at this moment. A drop of silver metal liquid dripped down from the twisted steel bars that locked the iron cage. That metal liquid flowed along the steel bars of the iron cage and came to the place where the steel bars had been ground off. In the blink of an eye, that gap was mended. It was seamless as if it had never been damaged. Memory metal. This iron cage was made of memory metal. Memory metal was the most difficult thing to destroy. Once it was destroyed, the memory property of the memory metal would be activated and the thing would be restored to its original state. Unless you had the ability to instantly melt the memory metal into powder, the memory property of the memory metal would allow the thing made of memory metal to be restored continuously. As if struck by lightning, Lu Yiqian, who had transformed into a monkey, trembled violently in the cage. Then, Xia Pingan's devilish voice and laughter came from the iron cage. Ha ha ha, Lu Yiqian, are you surprised? Are you surprised? Are you happy? This is the voice I left in this memory metal. When a memory metal is activated, my voice will also be activated. I guess that you would use your teeth to grind open this metal cage. So, I specially prepared this gift for you. You can continue to test how many teeth you can grind. A monkey has 28 teeth. You can also add in all the bones in your body that you can take out. Do your best. I have high hopes for you. If you can escape from this cage, I'll consider you capable. Lu Yiqian really cried, leaving behind the mournful tears of a monkey. He realized that he had finally met the greatest opponent and nemesis in his life. After busying himself for 3 days, risking his life, bleeding and crying, losing 3 teeth, countless blisters, and both his hands were so swollen that he could not lift them, the final result only proved one thing. The iron cage that imprisoned him looked quite ordinary, but it was actually quite expensive. That guy was simply not human. He was a devil. No, the people of the Blood Demon Church would not do such a thing. That guy even fooled a monkey. He was not at ease with a monkey and used a memory metal cage to deal with a monkey. Lu Yiqian slumped down in the cage, his eyes ashen. He had completely given up on any thoughts of escaping from the cage. Chez Terroir Restaurant. Manager, that Luo and has arrived at the restaurant. I brought him a hall 6. The person reporting sounded a little nervous. If he did not know what Luo meant before, then he knew now. That black-haired Chinese man was definitely a top-notch killer. After disappearing for several days, he reappeared and almost single-handedly destroyed the BG gang. Such a killing machine was even more revered and terrifying in this chaotic situation. Gabriel, who was sitting in the executive chair and seriously checking the restaurant's report, took a small breath when he heard this. He immediately put down the report in his hand with a solemn expression. He came alone? Yes, alone. Okay, I got it. Gabriel then stood up. Send him the Romani Connie that I kept in the cellar. Yes. After the waiter left, Gabriel took a deep breath and sat in the chair to think for a moment. Then, he turned and entered the secret room next to his office. He opened the safe in the secret room and took out 3 kilograms of gold bars. After checking them, he put the gold bars in a suitcase and personally carried the suitcase to Hall 6. The waiter standing outside Hall 6 was about to open the door when Gabriel shook his head and stepped forward to knock on the door himself. A voice came from inside the room. Come in. Gabriel then pushed the door open and walked into the room. There was only Xia Pingan in the room. He was sitting at the dining table, holding a knife and fork as he ate the foie gras prepared by the restaurant. At this moment, Xia Pingan's hair had been freshly trimmed, and he looked particularly energetic. He was wearing an exquisite black suit that Emily had chosen for him. Under the suit was a white shirt and tie, and the black leather shoes on his feet were shiny. It was simple, reserved, and showed a bit of depth and toughness. He looked like a gentleman who had lived in Paris for many years. An orange coat hung on a hanger in the room. Next to the coat was a golden lion head beach cane inlaid with diamonds. The moment he saw Xia Pingon, Gabriel thought that his eyes were playing tricks on him. The biggest change was not in Xia Pingon's appearance, but in his temperament. The first 2 times this man came to the restaurant, he looked sharp and slightly downtrodden, like a wild beast foraging for food in the jungle, wolfing down his food. At this moment, the man in front of him was calm, elegant, and steady. His body was surging with a powerful aura, like a king in the forest who already knew how to carefully savor the taste of a wonderful food like foie gras. Gabriel found it hard to imagine how a person's temperament could change so much in just a few days. He thought that his eyes were playing tricks on him, and he was stunned for a moment. Chapter 499. Seeing Gabriel in a daze, Xia Pingon smiled slightly, put down his knife and fork, and gently wiped the corners of his mouth. Now in Paris, there are not many restaurants that serve foie gras and truffles. By the way, there's also this bottle of Romani Conti. Please have a seat. Gabriel finally reacted. He bowed slightly and sat down next to Xia Pingon. He said a little cautiously, "We already know about the situation of the BG gang. It's amazing and outstanding. The result is even better than we expected. Your information is a little outdated, and you almost made a big mistake. Serene, the bodyguard of Oni, is already a quasi-summoner who has integrated 3 foundation realm beads." "Sorry," Gabriel said immediately with an apologetic face. "This is our oversight. We really didn't know that Serene had integrated another realm bead. It is very difficult for our organization to grasp the current situation of the realm beads flowing underground in Paris. As a gang, it is possible to get the realm beads through many channels. Fortunately, even a quasi-summoner can't withstand bullets. The mission is finally completed." Xia Pingon nodded. "In the past 2 days, have you taken over the territory of the BG gang?" After the death of Oni and Serene, the BG gang fell apart. Several small leaders in the gang began to fight among themselves. Their fight spread to the territory of the People's Front and injured our people. So yesterday, the guards of the People's Front had to take over the square building, eliminate some of the stubborn resistance of the BG gang, disarm the BG gang, and expel the remaining members of the BG gang from our territory. We also rescued many prostitutes who were under their control and seized some drugs. The security of the nearby streets has improved greatly, and the cancer cells in this city have decreased," Gabriel said with great satisfaction. "Do you know how many members of the BG gang you killed that night?" "I didn't count. A total of 37. Except for Oni and Serene, the important backbones of the BG gang suffered heavy losses. The remaining members were also in a state of panic, so we took over the territory of the BG gang at a very small price." "Yes, I saw it on my way here. The BG gang logo on Square Building has been removed. The rats should stay in the sewers. It's not right for them to come to the streets." Xia Pingon nodded. Another reason why he accepted this deal was that he felt that the trash from BG gang was a scourge. No matter where they went, they would not bring prosperity and stability. Instead, they would only make the lives of ordinary people increasingly difficult. "This is our way of expressing our gratitude to you. 3 kilograms of gold," Gabriel said as he put the gold suitcase on the table and opened it. Inside were pieces of gold bars. Xia Pingon glanced at the gold bars and saw the logo of the Central Bank of France. 3,000 grams of gold was less than 100 gold coins in the Yuanxiu world. This amount of money was not even enough for him to have a meal in the Immortal City. Forget it. A single gold coin was enough to kill a hero. Xia Pingon smiled and did not look at the gold coins in the suitcase. He just nodded to show that he had accepted it. "From now on, you'll be a VIP of our restaurant. No matter when you come, you will enjoy the best service and free meals here." Gabriel continued. "Thank you. It's our pleasure. Coincidentally, I want to ask you about something." Gabriel's expression became serious, and he sat up straight. "Please go ahead." "Who are Butcher and Sasa?" Xia Pingon asked. Gabriel's eyebrows twitched as if he had thought of something. Did they offend you? No, I'm just asking. Xiao Pingon took a sip of red wine. They are not to be trifled with. Butcher is an underground weapon smuggler in Paris and controls the largest underground arsenal in Paris. Sasa is the boss of the largest gang in Paris, the Doomsday Gang. They are now jointly waging war against the Chinese community in the 11th District. The Doomsday Gang occupies most of the 3rd District and 10th District adjacent to the 11th District. They have more than 3,000 members. We just received news that Butcher and Sasa have recently joined forces with other gangs that covet the wealth and resources of the Chinese community in the 11th District. They are preparing for a big operation, the largest underground ammunition warehouse. Xiao Pingon licked his lips. His eyes flashed as he gently stroked his chin. Sound good. Do you know where their arsenal is? Gabriel couldn't help but laugh. You're not thinking of robbing, are you? Butcher's underground arsenal is in the 3rd District of the Paris East Railway Station. That's his territory. Butcher has thousands of people under him. He now runs the Paris East Railway Station like a fortress. Butcher himself is a powerful summoner who has reached the 3rd elemental realm. Do you have photos of Butcher and Sasa? Please wait a moment. Gabriel left the room. 7 or 8 minutes later, he returned and placed 2 photos that seemed to have just been printed in front of Xiao Pingon. This is Butcher, and this is Sasa. The butcher in the photo was a fat, red-haired man with several jeweled rings on his fingers. He was playing on a golf course. Sasa dyed his hair green and wore a nose ring. His personal style was similar to Oni's. Oh, okay, thank you. Today's foie gras and red wine were excellent. Thank you for your hospitality. I'll take my leave now. Xiao Pingon said as he put away the photos and picked up the box of gold at his feet. He was ready to leave. The communication facilities in Paris are seriously damaged. If we need your help, how can we contact you? Xiao Pingon smiled. When I come to eat, Gabriel personally saw Xiao Pingon out of the restaurant. He watched as Xiao Pingon got into an old Citroën without a license plate and disappeared in a moment. It was a good thing for Butcher and Sasa to have such a terrifying killer eyeing them. Xiao Pingon drove the car. With a move of his hand, he put the box of gold into his space warehouse. After having a meal at Chez Terroir, the upper limit of his secret mandala increased by dozens of points, and he mastered a new magic skill. With another thought, Child of Fortune jumped out of the secret mandala. Child of Fortune giggled and jumped up and down on Xiao Pingon's shoulder. Go explore the path and see if there are any good things in the arsenal. Xiao Pingon said to Boy of Fortune God. Child of Fortune disappeared in a flash. In the blink of an eye, he appeared near the Eastern Railway Station in the 3rd arrondissement of Paris. On the streets near the Eastern Railway Station, there were fortresses built everywhere. Armed gangs had set up roadblocks nearby and checked all the vehicles coming and going. It looked like an impregnable fortress. Butcher's arsenal was in the underground warehouse of the railway station. Child of Fortune soon found it. When he saw the things in the warehouse, Xiao Pingon was shocked. More than an hour later, Xiao Pingon arrived at the Eastern Railway Station in the 3rd arrondissement of Paris. He just cast a very simple illusion of playing with the warlords and concealed his figure. Under the eyes of Butcher's countless subordinates, he walked calmly, and swaggered from the square outside the railway station. He passed through several roadblocks guarded by people and 2 layers of guards in the railway station hall. Finally, he arrived at the gate of the arsenal. The illusion of playing with the warlords was like a child's trick in front of a powerful summoner. But in front of these ordinary people, it was incomparably powerful. Ordinary people couldn't find any abnormalities at all. At the gate of the warehouse, there were 4 guards with guns. After easily knocking out the 4 guards with a palm on their necks, Xiao Pingon took the key of the warehouse gate from one of the guards, opened the door, and walked in. The black barrels of several Leopard tanks were pointed at the gate of the warehouse. In addition to the tanks, all kinds of munitions almost filled the warehouse of more than 10,000 square meters. Judging from the boxes and packaging of the munitions, most of them were supplies from the French military. They were the standard high-quality weapons of the European army. Perhaps the military had forgotten to take them with them when they retreated. Some of them were obtained from other sources. They were scattered all over the place. There were also hundreds of boxes of cloud explosion grenades. The other kinds of weapons and ammunition were dazzling. What made Xiaoping the happiest was that he saw boxes of high-end French red wine, cigars, and various kinds of food supplies that Paris was in short supply at the moment, such as caviar, ham, cheese, and so on. These supplies added up to several large trucks. Sure enough, the shortcut to wealth was a double cross. Xiaoping walked in the warehouse. With a wave of his hand, the things in the warehouse disappeared one by one in the monitoring room of the railway station. A bald young man who was sitting in the monitoring room and drinking coffee turned his head to look at the monitoring screen. His eyes immediately widened, and he spat out the coffee in his mouth. The bald man rubbed his eyes hard and then could not help but shout, "Boss, what's wrong?" A greasy white man who was looking at a beauty magazine raised his head and muttered, "What the hell? The warehouse. The things in the warehouse are disappearing. What nonsense are you talking about?" The surveillance screen was facing the warehouse. The items in the warehouse were disappearing in large swathes, as if they were performing a magic trick. There was no one in the warehouse, but the items were rapidly disappearing. It was like a magician performing a magic trick. Looking at the monitoring screen at the gate of the warehouse, he saw that the gate of the warehouse had been opened. The 4 guards at the gate had fallen to the ground, and their guns had fallen to the ground. The greasy white man who rushed over saw this scene and shouted. His face turned pale with fright, and he pressed the alarm button with his trembling hand. In an instant, the ear-piercing alarm rang throughout the Paris East railway station. Countless people were alarmed. Xiaoping also heard the alarm, but he did not care. He gently waved his hand and put away the red wine, cigars, and other things in the warehouse. He then left the warehouse. From beginning to end, he was like an invisible person. A few minutes later, the entire Paris East railway station was in complete chaos. Chapter 500. More than 40 minutes later, a black Mercedes-Benz, escorted by 2 wheeled vehicles painted with military camouflage, arrived at the gate of Paris Gare d'Est. First, the door of the wheeled vehicle opened, and more than 10 fully armed men quickly got out of the vehicle to stand guard. Then, the door of the black Mercedes-Benz opened, and a fat red-haired man wearing a snow-white suit, sunglasses, and holding a cane got out of the car and hurriedly walked into the station. Not all summoners were handsome and strong. At least, the fat red-haired man in front of him was not. His bloated figure was like a pig that had been pampered in a pigsty for decades. When he walked, the muscles all over his body would tremble, and he seemed to have difficulty breathing. But it was such a person that made everyone around him feel terrified. No matter how fat a summoner was, he was still a summoner. For ordinary people, the secret method of a 3rd-level summoner was like that of a god, and he could easily control the life and death of the people around him. "Bastard, if any one of you dares to make such a joke, I'll shoot him." Walking in the lobby of the station, the butcher roared, and the people around him kept quiet out of fear. The butcher was here. He had to come. When the butcher heard that his armory had been robbed in broad daylight and that nothing was left behind, he rushed over in a hurry after receiving the news. The butcher wondered if anyone dared to make such a joke with him. The weapons in the warehouse could easily arm 2 regiments. In addition to the weapons, there were also many valuable things he had just obtained from outside, such as drinks, food, and so on. The latter, in the current Paris, was a real luxury. Even if he opened up the warehouse and let 100 people move it, they might not be able to finish moving it in a day. Moreover, he had just inspected the warehouse in the morning and brought his men to move some supplies out of the warehouse and gave them to Sasa. Today was the day he and Sasa had agreed to have a decisive battle. Just tonight, they had joined forces with several other gangs in Paris to wipe out the Chinese community in the 11th arrondissement. There were several wholesale markets in the Chinese community in the 11th arrondissement, and there were many necessities in Paris in those markets. The butcher had been eyeing those wholesale markets for a long time. If this operation was successful, he could get 40% of the goods in those wholesale markets, and his wealth would increase several times. He didn't expect that such a problem would occur at such a critical moment. What a joke! If the battle didn't go well, his warehouse was responsible for continuously supplying weapons to the front line. Now, the people guarding the warehouse told him that the goods in the warehouse were gone. Sasa wouldn't believe him even if he told him. Yesterday, Sasa wanted to borrow the tank he had put in the warehouse, but the butcher refused. A tank was a weapon. If he really lent it, he might not be able to get it back. Butcher dragged his bloated body into the warehouse in a hurry. Looking at the empty warehouse, where not a single strand of hair was left, the butcher was dumbfounded. He could play football in it. What's the matter? His roar echoed in the empty warehouse. Where are my weapons? Where are my houses? Do they have legs of their own? Felix, where do you think they went? The butcher stared at a man with fiery eyes. Boss, these things suddenly disappeared. I swear, we were staring at the surveillance screen, and then the goods in the warehouse disappeared on their own. Then I sounded the alarm. The greasy man in charge of the surveillance room was so scared that he was trembling. You mean these things disappeared on their own? Yes, that's it. Is the surveillance video still there? Yes. Take me to the surveillance room. The butcher came to the surveillance room and watched the surveillance video. In the video, he first saw the 4 guards at the door of the warehouse faint on the ground for no reason. Then, he saw the door of the warehouse open. Then, the items in the warehouse disappeared one by one. After watching the video, the surveillance room was silent. The butcher was stunned and silent for a long time. Boss, you saw it. This has nothing to do with me. When we went down, we didn't meet anyone. The greasy man in charge of the surveillance room saw the butcher's body trembling slightly and thought his boss was angry. He explained in a low voice. Then he saw their boss turn his head. His face was pale, and his eyes were full of fear. Their boss was trembling, not because of anger, but because of fear. As a summoner, the butcher knew that the reason why the goods in his warehouse disappeared was not because of the devil or God, but because they were robbed. The robber was a summoner. The butcher understood that a powerful summoner had come to Paris. The reason was simple. A summoner who could take away all the equipment and supplies in his warehouse must be carrying unimaginable top-notch spatial equipment on him and in the secret mandala. In the world of summoners, a summoner with spatial equipment of this level was definitely a top existence among summoners. Even in the whole of France, there were only a handful of such summoners. Moreover, he seemed to have heard of the secret method of invisibility before. Very few summoners could fuse with that kind of realm pearl. Although he was a 3rd-level summoner and seemed to be a figure in Paris, if such a summoner wanted to kill him, it would be like strangling an ant. Was this a warning? Or was it done conveniently? The butcher didn't know, but the disappearance of the goods in his warehouse was enough to make him panic. He felt like a pitiful prey being targeted by a powerful predator. A few minutes later, under the escort of a large group of bodyguards, the butcher, whose face was as pale as a corpse, came out of the train station in a panic and quickly got on his black Mercedes-Benz. The bodyguards got on the wheeled vehicle and were about to escort the butcher out of the train station. The black Mercedes-Benz had just started and moved less than 10 meters. Boom! The terrifying explosion turned into a fierce flame, instantly turning the entire car into pieces. Even a big hole was blown out on the ground, and the glass of the surrounding buildings were all shattered. This was the explosive power of a strong military liquid explosive. When the bomb detonated, not a single blade of grass was left alive within 20 meters. The butcher in the car didn't have any time to react before he was turned into pieces in such a violent explosion. The silver letter in his hand was blown to pieces and flew 100 meters away. On the top floor of a building next to the train station, Xia Pingon, who had concealed himself, calmly put away the remote control in his hand and shook his head. This butcher was only a 3rd-level summoner. How disappointing. He didn't have any vigilance at all. His combat ability was too weak. For summoners who often fought and had experience, spells like the Water Shield were self-defense spells that had to be trained to trigger by default. When the bomb detonated, he saw the butcher in the car and wanted to react, but it was too late. And for experienced summoners, spells like the Water Shield could be activated simultaneously when the bomb detonated. If the butcher's Water Shield could be activated, he might not have died. Xia Pingon was just about to summon an assassin to finish him off. He didn't expect the butcher to not give him a chance to summon an assassin. Too weak. In a big city like Paris, indulging in luxury and sensual pleasures would unknowingly turn a summoner into a good-for-nothing. Xia Pingan secretly reminded himself that he shouldn't become such a summoner. Looking at the chaotic Paris East Station, Xia Pingan's figure disappeared in the next second. The 11th arrondissement, located on the right bank of the Seine River in Paris, was the most densely populated area in Paris. Here, there were several large wholesale markets for Chinese in Paris. Many Chinese living in Paris lived in the 11th arrondissement. When Xia Pingan arrived at the 11th arrondissement, it wasn't dark yet, but concentrated gunshots could be heard from time to time in the surroundings of the 11th arrondissement. This was the war zone of Paris. The closer he got to the 11th arrondissement, the more he could see burnt cars, smashed shops, and burned building wreckage on the streets. There were also all kinds of uncomfortable graffiti on the roadside walls and abandoned fences and barbed wire barriers on the streets. Even though it was broad daylight, very few people could be seen on the streets. The only pedestrians that could be seen were mostly gangsters with weapons. The gangsters attacking the 11th arrondissement and the Chinese guards defending the 11th arrondissement were now in a stalemate near the People's Square in the 11th arrondissement. Chapter 501. What? Butcher was killed by an explosion? Butcher's ammunition warehouse was emptied? In the headquarters of the Doomsday Gang, a cathedral in the 3rd District, Sasa, the boss of the Doomsday Gang, whose hair was dyed green like a tortoise, shouted when he heard the report from his subordinates. The Doomsday Gang was very arrogant. Among the gangs in Paris, the Doomsday Gang was the only one that had its headquarters in a church. They painted the cross on the roof of the church black. Under the cross, there was a corpse that had become white bones after being exposed to the elements for 2 years. It was the priest of the church. A group of gangsters drank, took drugs, partied, had promiscuous sex, abused prisoners, and killed people in the church. They did all kinds of blasphemous things. At the same time, the bosses of the Bloody Moon Gang and the Jackal Gang were also in the church. They were originally discussing how to launch a general attack on the Chinese community in the 11th District tonight. The leader of the Bloody Moon faction was a woman with short black hair and delicate makeup, wearing tight leather clothes. She was sharp and delicate, and her whole body was full of dangerous aura. The leader of the Jackal Gang was a strong man with a fierce-looking body and an eye patch. There were so many things in Butcher's ammunition warehouse. How could it be emptied? Was it done by his subordinates? I don't know. Paris East Station is in chaos. Butcher's subordinates began to split up. Brezov and Angered each led a group of people to divide Butcher's territory. I heard that in order to snatch the things in Butcher's villa, they exchanged gunfire, and some people died. Sasa frowned, his eyes flashing fiercely. He directly ordered, "It doesn't matter if Butcher is dead. You go and find out who emptied Butcher's ammunition warehouse. Whoever has Butcher's things, we can continue to cooperate with them." Butcher's men all said that the things in the arsenal suddenly disappeared on their own. They had no idea what was going on. Butcher returned to Paris Gare Estate to check it out. When he came out, he was killed by a powerful car bomb. How could things in the warehouse suddenly disappear? Sasha sneered. "Go and tell Brezov and Angered that I will support whoever provides us with the materials to become the second Butcher." After the messenger left, only the bosses of the Doomsday Gang, the Bloody Moon Gang, and the Jackal Gang remained in the room. The three of them had different expressions on their faces. The boss of the Jackal Gang, had a surprised look on his face. There was also a hint of excitement hidden in his face. This was because the Butcher's territory was connected to the Jackal Gang's territory. If something happened to the Butcher's territory, it meant that the Jackal Gang's opportunity had come. They could get a lot of benefits. However, the woman from Bloody Moon faction heard the words just now, and her eyes flashed strangely. She seemed to think of something, and a shadow quietly climbed up between her eyebrows. "You two, something happened to the Butcher, but it won't affect our action tonight. The firearms and explosives are already in place, and the self-destructing trucks have been assembled. Let's continue to discuss tonight's action." Sasha glanced at the two of them and pointed at the map of District 11 on the table with a dagger. The tip of the dagger was stabbed into the People's Square. Tonight, we will use the self-destructing trucks to clear the obstacles here and break the defense line of the Chinese people. Then we can drive straight in. From the two streets here, we will split into two and occupy all the Chinese communities and wholesale markets in District 11. Our Doomsday Gang will claim 10 of the self-destructing trucks, and you two can divide the rest equally. Is there any problem? The woman from Bloody Moon faction frowned slightly and said coldly, I think we can postpone tonight's action for a while. There have been too many unexpected things in the past 2 days. First, the BG gang had an accident, and now the Butcher is also in trouble. I don't think this is a coincidence. Before we figure out what happened to the Butcher, we shouldn't act rashly. Emojina, are you afraid? We've been preparing for this action for a long time. Now it's time to take action. Everything is ready. Do you want to give up? Sasha turned his cold eyes to the woman. The BG gang doesn't have many people who can participate in the battle, so they can't provide much help. Therefore, I gave them the least share. Whether they are here or not, it won't affect our action. But the Butcher has already fulfilled his promise, so I think our action won't be affected. Originally, we were the main force. I think this is a good opportunity. Bar, the leader of the Jackal gang, licked his lips and said greedily, maybe the Chinese thought that something happened to the Butcher, so we wouldn't make a big move. That way it would be more. How do you say that? Surprise, yes, surprise. The woman called Mo Jinar revealed a cold and mocking smile and stood up. Since you insist, our Bloody Moon faction will withdraw from tonight's action. Sasha's face twisted. He suddenly took out a silver pistol and pointed it at Mo Jinar. Are you kidding me? Mo Jinar sneered. She looked at Sasha, who was holding the gun with a dangerous light flashing in her eyes. A mass of black fog appeared in one of her hands. Sasha looked at the rolling black fog in Mo Jinnah's hand with his eyelids twitching. He was a little scared. Sasha, if you dare to shoot, you'll be dead. Do you want to have a try? Mo Jinnah said fearlessly. Sasha took a deep breath and slowly put down the gun. He suddenly laughed. Mo Jinnah, don't you want to think about it? If you leave now, the following feast will have nothing to do with you. Greed will make people stupid, and vanity will make people extreme. This is the root of tragedy. Things have changed, and it's not good for us, but you ignored it and still insisted on your own judgment. I can only wish you good luck. Mo Jinnah said, and left without looking back. Outside the room, the bodyguards of Bloody Moon faction were waiting for her. Bah, this bitch. Bar, the leader of the Jackal gang, spat out a mouthful of saliva and cursed. If one day she falls into my hands, I'll let her know how powerful I am. I've never played a summoner before. It's good that she quits. We can share more. You can have all the Bloody Moon faction share. Bar, can you handle it? Sasha looked at Bar and asked. No problem. Bar patted his chest and rolled his eyes cunningly. But I need a promise from you. What promise? When we take down the Chinese district of 11th District, the Butcher's territory will belong to me. Deal. Tonight, we'll massacre the 11th District. Bar laughed ferociously. I like those women in the 11th District. Don't worry, there will be. As long as we kill all their men, get ready to move. Night finally fell, and the restless air shrouded the entire 11th District. Strangely, after the night fell, the gunshots that could be heard everywhere in the 11th District miraculously disappeared. The gangsters and armed forces who were attacking the Chinese community in the People's Square seemed to have disappeared one by one. The Chinese community was obviously uneasy. Taking advantage of the darkness, Xia Pingan saw the Chinese community's guards and engineers urgently reinforcing the fortifications near the People's Square. On the Chinese community's side, there were a lot of people. It seemed that they had also received some news. There were guards constantly entering the position, and some people were installing explosives and detonators in some of the buildings on the street. Among those who walked to the position, the youngest seemed to be in his teens, but his face was already filled with determination. The old people were moving things, reinforcing the fortifications, and making simple incendiary bombs and soil bombs with fertilizers, gasoline, nails, broken glass, alcohol, washing powder, and butter. The women formed a medical team and got many stretchers. The children of the Chinese community were arranged in secret underground bunkers and shelters. Teachers were teaching the children to read and comfort them. All the men who could pick up weapons had picked up their weapons. The person in charge of commanding the defense and fighting of the Chinese community was very experienced in fighting in the city. He had made many arrangements. Even if the People's Square was lost, what awaited the gang members who invaded the Chinese community was cruel and fierce street fighting and endless ambushes. It was still unknown whether the gang members could withstand the test of such a battle. Xia Pingan sat leisurely on the roof of the coffee shop next to the People's Square, eating almond milk chocolate and watching the changes in the Chinese community with gratification. Boy of Fortune was jumping around him, having fun. Tonight, even without him, it would be difficult for the Chinese community in the 11th district to fall, but casualties were inevitable. Of course, if he was here, he naturally couldn't watch those gangsters bully and kill the Chinese here. No matter which country the Chinese came from, the same blood flowed in their bodies as he did. This was called blood thicker than water. Over the course of the afternoon, as his body and spirit merged, Xia Pingan's available divine power had quietly increased by over 100 points, and the number of spells he could use had also increased. At about 8 o'clock, as the night completely fell, the restlessness and uneasiness in the air were completely ignited by the roar of the cars. The battle had finally arrived. On the other side of the People's Square, a large number of members of the Doomsday Gang and the Jackals were holding various weapons. Led by more than 30 modified self-destructing trucks, armored pickups, and several wheeled infantry vehicles, they were slowly approaching the People's Square from two directions. The members of the two gangs gathered here. There were about 3,000 to 4,000 people crowded the streets, and dark clouds loomed over the city. In the darkness, a self-destructing truck modified with steel plates and iron fences finally moved. Like a monster, it roared and drove out from the other side of the People's Square. Black smoke billowed out of it as it accelerated toward the barbed wire and fortifications of the Chinese community. The people driving the self-destructing truck as cannon fodder were gangsters with bloodshot eyes who had fallen into a state of madness after being brainwashed by drugs and drugs. The battle started instantly. When the self-destructing truck rushed to the People's Square, countless bullets were fired at it. Chapter 502. Bullets fell on the monster-like self-destructing truck like raindrops, causing sparks to fly from the steel plates outside the self-destructing truck. In the dark night, it was full of gorgeous beauty. The self-destructing truck roared like a mad bull with its tail lit on fire. It rushed toward the obstacles on the other end of the People's Square. Some of the obstacles on the road were mercilessly knocked away by the truck. When the Chinese guards opened fire, some of their firepower was exposed, but not all of them were exposed. In the darkness, the places that were spitting flames were immediately suppressed by the gang's firepower. The flames dragged by the bullets were like countless shuttles. They passed through the square and shot toward the enemy's camp, creating a symphony of death. The armor of the self-destructing truck was too thick, and it was modified very professionally. It was difficult for rifle, sniper rifle, and submachine gun bullets to penetrate it. As the self-destructing truck approached, everyone in the Chinese community's defense line felt the aura of death approaching. The destructive power of the self-destructing truck depended on how many explosives were loaded in the truck. However, with the character of the Doomsday Gang, the self-destructing truck was definitely loaded with a lot of explosives. Once the self-destructing truck got close, not to mention exploding near the defense line, even if it got within 50 meters, the defense line of the Chinese community might suffer huge damage and bring about huge casualties. Previously, the Chinese community still had some RPGs, but after these days of fighting, those RPGs have been used up. Facing the self-destructing truck, the Chinese community no longer had any effective weapons to stop the crazy self-destructing truck from approaching. The Chinese community also had two summoners, but the power of their spells, such as fireballs and icicles, was no longer a threat to the self-destructing truck from 50 meters away. Boom! The self-destructing truck knocked away a few abandoned gasoline barrels on the road. In the blink of an eye, it had rushed to the center of the people's square. On the battlefield, amidst the continuous gunshots, everyone's eyes were focused on the self-destructing truck. Behind the Chinese defense line in the people's square, on a street, a solemn and resolute aura spread. More than 30 motorcycles were ready to go. The motorcycles were driven by the young riders from the Chinese community. At this moment, explosives were tied to their beloved motorcycles. The riders were wearing bulletproof vests and had become suicide squad members. In order to deal with the self-destructing truck, the Chinese community prepared self-destructing motorcycles. Only by stopping the self-destructing truck 50 meters away from the defense line and detonating it could the defense line in the people's square be defended and prevent more casualties. This was the only way to stop the enemy's self-destructing truck from approaching. Everyone drew lots to decide the order of departure. Seeing that the enemy's self-destructing truck was approaching, a young Chinese man in his 20s said to a white-haired man in front of him with reddened eyes, "Uncle Long, remember to take care of my mother and sister. Don't let those bastards rush to our home. Brothers, I'll go first. When we're down there, we'll go press together. F***CK, those bastards were still alive on the trees when we were playing Suicide Squad. We're not afraid of them when it comes to fighting with our lives." After saying that, the young Chinese man put down the mask of his helmet and gestured to the riders behind him to cheer him on. He lowered his body, and the exhaust pipe of the motorcycle roared. It was like a wild horse that was about to break free, or an arrow that was about to leave the bow, ready to shoot at any time. The man called Uncle Long had tears streaming down his face, but his eyes were filled with determination. He raised one hand and stared at the self-destructing truck that was gradually approaching. As long as the self-destructing truck passed by the burning tires in front, the young man on the motorcycle would rush out and never come back. The people around him were the most outstanding young people in the Chinese community. They were all good people, and today, these young people were going to die to protect the community. Not a single one of them backed down. Brother. At the back of the street, a young girl around 12 or 13 years old cried and rushed over from behind. She was stopped by the guards and could not get close. When a young man on the motorcycle heard that voice, his body trembled. However, he resisted the urge to turn around and stepped on the accelerator. As the self-destructing truck was about to cross the line of death, Uncle Long's raised hand was about to lower it. At this moment, in the dark sky above the people's square, in the background of countless intertwining bullet trajectories, a bird suddenly appeared and lit up the entire people's square. It was like a sun rising. The vermilion bird's scorching sky spread its wings and proudly flew over the people's square. Its speed seemed slow, but it was indescribably fast. Just as the self-destructing truck crossed the line of death, it descended from the sky and hugged the self-destructing truck. Boom! The self-destructing truck exploded, and a ball of fire rushed up from the ground. The explosion's flames and shockwaves swept through everything within 100 meters. Everyone within 2 or 3 kilometers could feel the violent tremors brought about by the explosion. Vermilion bird scorching sky, impossible. A second-level Chinese summoner from the Chinese community opened his eyes wide and shouted, "A powerful summoner has come." The commander of the Chinese community muttered to himself when he saw the scene just now. Only a true summoner could see the magic technique just now. It was an extremely long-range magic technique. The vermilion bird scorching sky's power did not decrease. When it descended, it instantly dissolved the self-destructing truck. This kind of magic technique was definitely not something an ordinary summoner could grasp. The gangsters attacking the Chinese community were also frightened. Many people did not understand what had happened. Many of them who heard the explosion but did not see the explosion cheered, thinking that their self-destructing truck had succeeded. According to the plan, after the first self-destructing truck exploded, the second, third, and fourth self-destructing trucks would rush out at the same time and strike while the iron was hot. The gangsters who did not understand the situation did not hesitate at all when they saw the first self-destructing truck explode. They directly sent out the 3 self-destructing trucks behind it. The first self-destructing truck exploded, and flames soared into the sky. Xiao Pingan appeared in the twisting flames. He was wearing a long orange coat, an exquisite black suit, and a bow tie. On his feet were spotless leather boots. There was a cigar in his mouth. Xiao Pingan was like a king of the night. He appeared elegant and domineering as he walked out of the flames. Xiao Pingan's body was surrounded by a thick, rotating water shield. Xiao Pingan was holding a turret in his hand. The 11 rotating barrels on the turret just happened to extend out of the water shield. Yes, Xiao Pingan was holding a turret. The turret was a heavy weapon developed by the European Union and assigned to the army to deal with monsters like the magic fire spiders during space invasions. The core of the turret was an 11-barrel, multi-barreled close-range defense cannon. This type of close-range defense cannon had a firing rate of 3,000 rounds per minute. It was like an enhanced version of the Koshkin multi-barreled heavy machine gun. It could tear apart all medium and light armor targets within a kilometer. The European Union had assigned this type of turret to armored vehicles. This big guy weighed 670 kilograms. It was impossible for ordinary people to carry it. This thing was something from the butcher's warehouse. What's that? Someone's there? At the Chinese community's defense line, everyone was shocked when they saw Xiao Pingan walking out of the flames. Xiao Pingan's back was facing the Chinese community's defense line, but everyone could still see the rotating water shield on Xiao Pingan's body, the dazzling coat, and the exaggerated close-range defense cannon in his hand. This scene was unforgettable for many people present. Looking at the 3 self-destructing trucks that had just come out from the front, Xiao Pingan smiled. He then pressed down on the turret in his hand. The barrel of the close-range defense cannon rotated. Then, the dense bullets were like a flaming whip, fiercely whipping the first self-destructing truck that had rushed out. The self-destructing truck didn't even last half a second before it exploded. Boom! The same violent explosion occurred again. However, unlike before, the explosion this time was too close to the gang members. As soon as the truck exploded, the other 2 trucks nearby were overturned by the huge shock wave and flames at the same time. Then, they also exploded. There were more than 100 people in the Vanguard gang within 100 meters, and they were all torn to shreds by the explosion. Chapter 503. A 3-story building on the side of the street collapsed in the violent explosion of the self-destructing truck. The gangsters were wailing like ghosts and howling like wolves. Xiao Pingan continued to move forward amidst the flames and shock waves of the self-destructing truck. He did not stop at all. The shock waves and flames of the explosion swept over, but to Xiao Pingan, it was like a gentle breeze. The water shield around his body rippled slightly, and everything was dissolved. Who is that? A devil? At this time, the gangsters finally saw Xiao Pingan clearly through the raging flames of the self-destructing truck and the large crater on the ground. Xiao Pingan was also holding a turret of a close-range defense cannon in his hand. There was a cigar in his mouth and a cold and mocking expression on his face. Many of them thought that they were hallucinating after taking drugs, because that turret did not look like something that a person could carry with one hand. There were more than 10 self-destructing trucks on the street more than 100 meters away, ready to go. Thousands of armed gangsters were behind those self-destructing trucks. Kill him, a gangster leader roared. The gangsters finally came to their senses. They did not know who Xiao Pingan was, but Xiao Pingan's gun was pointed at them. Therefore, it was clear whether he was a friend or a foe. At this time, the gangsters finally understood how powerful a summoner's water shield spell was. Countless bullets shot at Xiao Pingan's water shield, but they were like goshawks stuck by glue. The water shield only shook slightly, and the bullets fell to the ground. They could not hurt Xiao Pingan at all. Those gangsters who were closer to the self-destructing trucks but were smart enough to turn around and run away when they saw Xiao Pingan's turret turn toward those self-destructing trucks. Trash! Xiao Pingan muttered softly. He didn't say anything else. The barrel of the turret in his hand rotated again, and countless bullets poured out, blowing up the self-destructing trucks. Those self-destructing trucks were all crowded together. This time, Xiaopingan only blew up one of them. The others were also affected by the explosion of that self-destructing truck, and an even more violent explosion occurred. Amidst the loud rumbling, a ball of fire and black smoke rose from the ground and rushed up to 100 meters in the air. Half of the street was instantly turned into ruins. The gangsters within 100 meters of the self-destructing trucks were either torn to pieces or shaken to the point of bleeding from their 7 orifices. They died instantly and suffered heavy casualties. No one had expected that the self-destructing trucks that were supposed to explode in front of the defense line and fortifications of the Chinese community in the People's Square would explode in front of them before they drove out. At this moment, the entire 11th District and the adjacent 3rd District, 10th District, and 20th District, almost half of the city of Paris, could feel the tremor. The gangsters were scared out of their wits. Many of them woke up from the tremor of the explosion and turned around to run. Looking down from the air, the street that was originally crowded with gangsters was now full of gangsters fleeing like stray dogs and antelopes migrating from the African prairie. The Chinese community was dumbfounded. They had thought that it would be a life-and-death battle today. Unexpectedly, the situation was reversed at the beginning of the battle. Forward, forward, forward. Xiaopingan was like an elegant Grim Reaper. In the blink of an eye, he passed through the black smoke and flames of the explosion and appeared on the street where those gangsters were fleeing like wolves and rats. At this moment, the turret in his hand started to roar boom, 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 as it crazily fired at those gangsters. Xiaopingan showed no mercy, because he knew that if these gangsters broke through the defense line of the Chinese community, those innocent people in the Chinese community would face a miserable fate. At this moment, eliminating evil was promoting kindness. The more trash died, the better the people could live with dignity. The power of the turret in Xiaopingan's hands was too terrifying. This was a close-range defense cannon used to deal with armored targets and even incoming missiles. One could imagine how powerful it would be if it hit a human body. It was not something ordinary flesh and blood could resist. When a bullet from the turret hit a person's flesh and blood, it would instantly leave a bowl-sized bloody hole. If it hit a person's hands and feet, it would directly break their limbs and break their bones and flesh. If there were 4 or 5 people running in a line, a bullet could penetrate through 4 or 5 people's bodies at the same time, leaving a big hole in their bodies and causing all of them to fall down. The bullets shot out from the turrets formed a bright line of fire in the darkness. The line of fire was like the scythe of the Grim Reaper, crazily reaping the lives on the street. Wherever the line of fire pointed, no one could stand within 2,000 meters. A series of bullets was equivalent to creating a path of flesh and blood on the street. As Xiaopingan moved forward, he kept firing, not letting go of any gangster who could still move in front of him. Over 300 meters away, a gangster on an armored personnel carrier started to fire at Xiaopingan with a machine gun on the vehicle. When the bullets hit the water shield in front of Xiaopingan, the water shield slightly swayed, causing the bullets to fall to the ground. Xiaopingan then turned the turret in his hand and shot a line of fire towards that armored personnel carrier. The armored personnel carrier couldn't hold on for even a second. Boom! It exploded. The people in the vehicle were torn apart by the bullets and the explosion. Xiaopingan kept dropping brass cartridges from the turret in his hand. Behind Xiaopingan, they were like his footprints, leaving behind a series of golden trails. And in front of the turret were countless torn flesh and severed limbs. On this street, there was no body of flesh and blood that could last more than 1 second when the turret's line of fire was pointed at it. If there was, it would last for 2 seconds. The turret's bullet belt was directly connected to the space warehouse, allowing Xiaopingan's turret to have an almost unlimited output. 3 rockets flew towards Xiaopingan. Xiaopingan held the heavy turret in his hand, but his body was as agile as an assassin or a butterfly. He leapt up lightly, his orange windbreaker fluttering in the night wind. While he was in the air, he swept the turret in his hand in the direction of the rockets. The huge recoil caused Xia Pingon to float back in the air like a flying kite. At the same time, several fleeing modified pickup trucks hundreds of meters away were instantly turned into fireballs and blasted into the sky. Before the pickup trucks fell from the sky, Xia Pingon's feet had already landed firmly on the ground, and he continued to move forward. More than 500 meters away, a gang sniper's bullet was shot towards him, but the bullet was blocked by the water shield. Before the sniper who fired the bullet could put away his gun and move to another place, in 0.1 seconds, Xia Pingon's turret had already pointed at the apartment where the sniper was hiding. In the next second, countless bullets flew over. The bullets pierced through the walls and turned the walls of the room into sieves. One wall collapsed, and the sniper hiding behind the wall was shot until he looked like a hornet's nest. He could no longer be recognized as a human. Hundreds of gang members ran to a small 5-story apartment on the side of the road and shot at Xia Pingon. The turret's line of fire came. 1 minute later, the apartment building that was pierced by thousands of powerful bullets was like a piece of cheese riddled with holes. Together with the wreckage inside, it turned into ruins and then collapsed with a loud bang. In the roar of the turret's machinery and the high-speed rotation of the barrel, only the wails of the Paris Doomsday Gang and the Jackal Gang could be heard. In the beginning, there were still people who dared to fight back against Xia Pingon. However, as those who fought back became corpses under the turret in the blink of an eye, all the gang members who were still alive only had one thought in their mind. That was to escape, throw away their weapons, and escape. This was not a battle, but a one-sided massacre. All the gang members became moving targets of the terrifying close-range artillery in the 11th arrondissement of Paris tonight. Xia Pingon pushed forward and swept the entire street of more than 2,000 meters with the turret in his hand, from the People's Square to the Avier Bridge. Those gang members and vehicles, after being swept by Xia Pingon's turret's line of fire, it was difficult to find a single intact one. Standing on the bridge beside the Seine River, the 11 barrels of the turret in Xia Pingon's hand finally stopped rotating, and the buzzing high-speed motor finally stopped. Those barrels had turned red all the way here like something that had just been taken out of a furnace, with the color and temperature of hell. The street in front of him was completely silent. Only the river was flowing quietly. There was no longer an eyesore in his line of sight. The world in front of him was finally tranquil. After moving the close-range artillery to one side from the designed opening of the water shield, the red barrel hit the water shield on the side. With a sound of chi, a large amount of water mist rose from the barrel, causing the barrel to cool down in a split second. Xia Pingon put away the close-range artillery and took off the cigar in his mouth. After exhaling a mouthful of snow-white smoke, he crushed the cigarette butt. From the beginning until now, just as he finished smoking the cigar, the entire street had been completely wiped out. Behind him, the broken limbs of the gang members covered the entire street. Both sides of the street were covered in blood, and only the middle of the street was a golden tunnel where bullet shells had been thrown down. The battle was not over yet. Some important figures had already escaped when they saw that the situation was not good. Xia Pingon turned his head and glanced at one direction. In the next second, Xia Pingon's figure disappeared from the bridge. Not until the gunshots completely stopped did the guards of the Chinese community leave the fortification and come to the street where Xia Pingon, the Doomsday Gang, and the Jackal Gang had fought fiercely. A flare was shot into the sky. Under the cold white light of the flare, all the Chinese people standing at the end of the People's Square sucked in a breath of cold air. It was no longer a street, but a tunnel of flesh and blood that led to hell. In the middle of the tunnel of flesh and blood that led to hell, countless yellow bullet shells shone brightly in the darkness against the pools of blood and severed limbs on both sides of the street. They carried a sacred yet indescribable aura as they were scattered all the way without stopping. They were like the footprints of the gods that extended from the People's Square to the darkness in the distance. It made one's heart tremble and had the urge to kneel down and worship it. Chapter 504. Hurry, hurry, hurry up. Drive faster. The boss of the Jackal Gang bar was sitting in the revamped armored pickup truck. He looked back at the road behind the window in horror. His face was pale and frightened, like a young girl who had just escaped from a men's prison. The revamped pickup truck with welded steel plates and a ram sped through the streets of Paris in the dark of night, as if it had lost its soul. The driver and bodyguard of Bar, the leader of the Jackal Gang, sat in the front of the modified pickup truck. Both of them were terrified. Bar sat in the back of the pickup truck. In the rear compartment of the pickup truck, there was a heavy machine gun. In the heavy machine gun's firing position, half of a corpse was still fastened to it by a seatbelt. As the pickup truck sped along the street, the corpse's intestines swayed back and forth in front of Bar's eyes. The corpse was one of the members of the Jackal Gang who had been blown to pieces by the terrifying summoner's turret in the People's Square. Until now, Bar's mind was still replaying the terrifying scene. The machine gunner had died in front of him. Only a shell had hit the man's head. The man's head had exploded like a watermelon filled with explosives. The neck had been left bare, and the brain and blood had exploded all over Bar's face. Before the man's body fell to the ground, the second shell hit the man's stomach. Then the broken half of the body was blown into pieces, leaving only the half of the body that was fastened by the safety belt. It was still parked at the firing position of the heavy machine gun. At that time, Bar had peed his pants. He had his driver and bodyguard immediately drive away from the hellish battlefield. As the boss of the Jackal Gang, it wasn't that Bar hadn't experienced bloody and terrifying scenes, but everything he experienced tonight had become his nightmare. The summoner, who was wearing an orange coat and a black suit, walked out of the flames with a body of flesh and blood that couldn't resist the turret. It was like a nightmare that shattered the last bit of courage and ruthlessness in Bar's heart. The Jackal Gang also had two summoners. However, the two summoners of a Jackal Gang usually brag about how powerful they were, how they played with a lot of women, and how they took a lot of money from the Chigo Gang. But just now, when they saw that person release a Firebird to detonate the self-destructing truck and walk out of the flames, the two sons of B** Cheese were so scared that their faces turned white. They didn't even say goodbye and turned to run. Bar had never seen those two guys run so fast. One of them had even summoned a horse while running away. He rode the horse and hid himself under the horse's belly. Paris had never known that guy had such good riding skills. The Doomsday Gang was finished. The Jackal Gang was finished. He couldn't stay in Paris any longer. Fortunately, he still had a lot of money and things. As long as he left Paris with those things, he could go to other countries. No matter where he went, he could live a good life. Bar was still in shock. He took out an antique pure silver wine bottle and fiercely poured 2 mouthfuls of wine into his mouth. After drinking 2 mouthfuls, the speeding pickup suddenly braked and almost threw Bar from the back seat to the front windshield. Bar couldn't hold the wine bottle in his hand and threw it out. The brandy spilled all over the car. "Bastard, what are you doing?" Bar roared. His face looked like he wanted to eat someone. "Boss, look ahead," the driver said with a trembling voice. Through the front windshield of the modified pickup, under the illumination of the pickup's lights, Bar saw a person standing on the road ahead. It was a ghost-like monster wrapped in a black robe. A black fog loomed over the monster. The monster carried a sword on its back. Its whole body was filled with the aura of death. It coldly looked at Bar's car. This wasn't a person. It was a monster that only a summoner could summon. Bar shuddered. Then, with bloodshot eyes, he roared, "Rush over, kill him, shoot him." Bar's driver gritted his teeth and stepped on the gas pedal. The pickup suddenly roared and rushed toward the monster on the road. The bodyguard, sitting next to the driver, also opened the window. He stretched his hand out of the car and fired at the monster with a submachine gun. The monster wasn't actually a monster. It was just a level 1 assassin summoned by Xia Pingon. The assassin's figure rolled on the road ahead. Instead of retreating, he rushed toward the pickup. In the blink of an eye, the two sides met on the road. "Kill him," Bar roared. The moment the pickup truck came into contact with the assassin jumped up. His entire body was like a javelin as he kicked the front windshield of the pickup truck with both feet. Following the howling wind from the front, his entire body was thrust into the truck. Just as Bar raised his pistol, The long sword in the assassin's hand slid across his neck. Bar's head flew into the air. In the last second before he fell into darkness, Bar saw that the summoned monster was like a master swordsman. With a flash of the sword, the snow-white long sword pierced into his bodyguard's mouth and came out from the back of his head. With another flash, his driver's hands were cut off. He screamed loudly. The broken hands were still holding the steering wheel. The assassin's last sword slid across the neck of the pickup driver. The driver's screams stopped abruptly. Then, the pickup truck crashed into a big tree on the side of the road, causing it to roll. The assassin's soul leaped out of the truck. While the truck was rolling, the assassin's sword slashed the fuel tank of the truck's chassis. The blade of the sword then slashed at the ground, creating a trail of flames. The flames ignited the gasoline spilled by the pickup truck, causing it to burn. Finally, with a loud boom, it turned into a blazing fireball and stopped beside the wall of a building on the side of the road. Translator's note: the summoned assassin disappeared in the blink of an eye. Xiao Pinggan summoned the assassin to deal with Bar. Xiao Pinggan himself chased after the boss of the Doomsday Gang, Sasa. As the saying went, evil must be eradicated. Tonight, Xiao Pinggan would definitely not let Sasa and Bar escape. There was a strange aura on Sasa's body. When he was escaping just now, Xiao Pinggan felt that there was an obscure divine power fluctuation on Sasa's body, so he personally chased after Sasa. Sasa was very cunning. When he escaped, he did not take the main road. Instead, he abandoned everyone in the Doomsday Gang and passed through the subway station near the People's Square. The underground transportation in Paris had been paralyzed 2 years ago. The subway tunnels did not see the sun all year round. It was a more terrifying place than the surface. Many entrances and exits of the subway stations have been sealed. Chapter 505. The derailed subway overturned in the tunnel was twisted out of shape and covered in dust. Glass shards, as well as a variety of discarded debris, were scattered on both sides of the subway tracks. The tracks had been deformed. Xiao Pinggan even saw a few highly decomposed skeletal corpses emitting a foul stench. They were buried under a section of the subway, and no one cleaned them up. 2 of the corpses stretched out their hands from under the subway, trying to grab something before they died. On the walls of the tunnel, from time to time, water droplets could be seen dripping. In this deathly silent place, the sound of the water droplets falling was somewhat terrifying. In the air here, there was a faint layer of gloomy and cold chill that made people's hair stand on end. In this place where there was no light in the daytime, not to mention ordinary people, even those gang members would be afraid. Xiao Pinggan could see clearly in this dark subway tunnel, but there was no light here. He gently waved his hand and summoned a group of fireflies. The green fireflies flashed and floated in front of and behind Xiao Pinggan, immediately lighting up the surroundings. Xiao Pinggan sighed softly and threw out a few fireballs. The fireballs fell on the highly decomposed corpses and cremated them. Then, he reached out and took out the soul-pacifying banner. The soul-pacifying banner gently waved, scattering specks of brilliance on the corpses. Heaven's benevolence, the body melts with metal. Mixed and mixed, rising and falling repeatedly. Ancestral nature, deep and serene good fortune. Get wood to extract gold, gold to remove wood, no longer intruding. Transformed into a wandering soul, deep in one's heart. Hidden in the dark, traces difficult to find. Showing something from nothing, penetrating the past and the present. Calming the soul from the soul wins the soul. The gods and ghosts are praised, the kingdom of heaven. As Xiao Pinggan softly sang this ancient ballad in a low voice, a few faint figures appeared around Xiao Pinggan. Those people had a relieved smile on their faces. After bowing to Xiao Pinggan, the light and shadow faded and then disappeared. As the light and shadow of those people disappeared, the coldness in the tunnel seemed to have lessened a lot. Xiao Pinggan put away the soul-pacifying banner and continued to walk forward. This dark and deep tunnel covered the entire underground of Paris. It was like a huge maze, isolated from the rest of the world, and seemed to be hiding something. In the past, the French military had cleaned up the underground of demon rats and some space invaders. Part of the tunnel had been blown up. On both sides of the tunnel, Xiao Pingan saw many holes that had been dug out. Those holes did not look like they had been dug out by machines. They looked more like they had been dug out by hand. On the ground of the tunnel, he could see large pieces of bullet casings from time to time. There were also large pieces of bullet holes on the wall. With Boy of Blessings following Sasa, Xiao Pingan didn't believe that guy could escape. After walking in the tunnel for more than half an hour, Xiao Pingan revealed a faint smile. He moved his hand, and with a flash of light, the long sword of engraved boat Qiujian appeared in his hand. After more than 10 seconds, spots of blood-red light appeared in the darkness ahead. Rustling sounds came from the ground of the tunnel. In the darkness, more than 20 ferocious demon rats appeared in front of Xiao Pingan, blocking his way and approaching him bit by bit. Bloody eyes, separated teeth, still the same as before. Having not seen such things for a long time, Xiao Pingan felt a bit familiar with them. Xiao Pingan smiled. At this moment, a demon rat charged at Xiao Pingan while biting Xiao Pingan's neck with its sharp teeth. He stabbed out his long sword and cut off half of the demon rat's head, killing it in a split second. Before that demon rat fell to the ground, Xiao Pingan had already teleported it into his space teleportation warehouse. These demon rats could be used to make some medicinal pills, so he didn't want to waste them. The other demon rats rushed towards Xiao Pingan. Xiao Pingan rushed forward while his long sword flashed a cold light in the darkness. His orange coat was fluttering in the wind. Under Xiao Pingan's rapid advance, Xiao Pingan drew a cold line in the air. When the light faded away, all the 20-odd demon rats in front of Zhang Tai had disappeared as if they had never appeared before, killing them and teleporting them into the space teleportation warehouse. Xiao Pingan continued to walk forward. After walking for another 2 or 3 kilometers, a complicated underground crossing appeared here. This was a completely abandoned subway station. The underground passage here had 2 floors, with different tunnels leading to different 7 directions. If an ordinary person were to come here, they would definitely be caught off guard. However, Xiao Pingan only smiled coldly. The long sword in his hand turned into a bolt of lightning. Like a javelin, it fiercely flew out and sank into a wall behind the abandoned subway platform. The long sword was inserted halfway into the wall, buzzing and trembling. Then, blood gushed out from the place where the sword was inserted. Boom! The wall suddenly shattered. The figure of Sasa, the leader of the Doomsday Gang, was exposed from behind the shattered wall. Xiao Pingan's long sword flew out and hit him right in the heart. He held the long sword with both hands and walked out step by step. His eyes were blood-red and his face was ferocious. As he walked out, he pulled the long sword out of Sasa's heart. He kept spitting out blood. Then, Sasa's physical body seemed to be split open by something. From head to toe, it shattered bit by bit and turned into an empty skin bag. Like a python shedding its skin, it fell to the ground. A monster stretched out from his body bit by bit. Finally, it became a monster that was more than 3 meters tall. There was a row of protruding bone spurs on its spine. It had a long tail that was more than 1 meter long, propped on the ground, and its head was like a horizontally flattened spindle. The monster's body was covered in black scales, and the scales were covered in disgusting mucus. The monster's huge mouth was 2 feet long, and its mouth was filled with teeth that were as sharp as a file. Roar! The monster roared at Xiao Pingan. The terrifying sound echoed throughout the subway station, bringing with it a fishy wind. The 3-meter-tall monster was like a giant compared to Luo in size. It stood in front of Xiao Pingan and waved its pants like forelimbs. It was full of oppression and was eager to try. A complete brain-eating insect. Sure enough, it's the people of the Demon Eye. They really are everywhere. Xiao Pingan shook his head slightly as he looked at the monster that had transformed into a monster. The brain-eating insect pounced on Xiao Pingan with a terrifying aura. Xiao Pingan didn't even bother to move. He just stomped his foot on the ground. A flame rolled out from the ground like a ripple. With Xiao Pingan as the center, it spread out in all directions. There was no blind spot, no gap. In the air, on the ground, and underground, there was only one thing. Fire a second later was all over. The complete brain-eating insect had disappeared. Only a little dust was left on the ground. More than 20 meters away, an abandoned vending machine turned into dark red molten iron and slowly flowed on the ground. The surrounding high temperature on the ground was slowly fading away. The sudden flame and high temperature just now seemed to have never appeared. Done. Xiao Pingon clapped his hands and immediately returned to the subway station. Walking out of the subway station, he came to the street outside. The Arc de Triomphe, not far away, as a landmark of Paris, was particularly clear. Although it was a different Earth, some things had a huge inertia and were exactly the same. Paris was strangely quiet tonight after the violent uproar. Come out. You've been following me since the People's Square. Don't hide, Xiao Pingon said to the surrounding people. After Xiao Pingon said this, a shadow twisted and walked out from the shadows at the corner of the street behind him. She had long black hair, black eyes, fiery red lips, snow-white skin, a black leather windbreaker, long boots, a curvaceous body, and a holster on her thigh. She was beautiful and sexy, and she had the aura of a rank 3 summoner. Xiao Pingon had noticed before. The reason why he let this woman follow him was because her face was inexplicably familiar. It reminded him of a friend. Sir, you've saved the Chinese community in the 11th district tonight. How should I address you? The woman asked directly in Chinese. Xiao Pingon glanced at the woman's face. The more he looked, the more similar they were. Not only did this woman look similar, even her temperament was the same, cold and arrogant. He did not answer the woman's question, but asked directly, You can call me Lu Owen. Lu Owen, this name was very unfamiliar. It had never stopped. It was impossible for such a strong person to be unknown. Could it be an alias? The female summoner who had just appeared was thinking in her heart. Xiao Pingon's next question made her face change. By the way, is your surname Fong? The woman's eyes flashed with a trace of surprise. Ah, how did you know? Xiao Pingon almost could not help but slap his own head. He continued to ask, Do you have a sister called Fong Lingshan? The woman was shocked. This Luo and actually knew about her sister. She was even more puzzled. Who are you? How do you know about me? You haven't answered my question yet. Out of respect for Xiao Pingon's strength, the woman took a deep breath and calmed herself down. Yes, I have a sister called Fong Lingshan. My name is Fong Lingxian. Do you know my sister? Ah, I've heard of her. Xiao Pingon smiled bitterly. The world was too small. He did not expect Fong Lingshan to have a sister in Paris. She had been guarding the Chinese community in the 11th district of Paris. You've heard of her? Fong Lingyin looked at Xiao Pingon with a puzzled expression. She could clearly hear the perfunctory tone in Xiao Pingon's words. He had only heard of her sister, yet he could recognize her. Who was he trying to fool? This person should be very familiar with her sister, which was why he could recognize her from her face. But it was very strange. Lingshan had never said that she knew such an expert. Chapter 506. Just by looking at Fong Lingshuan's eyes, Xiao Pingon could roughly guess what this beauty was thinking. However, it did not matter. If he did not tell them the truth, they would not know what was going on even if they broke their heads. Fong Lingshuan's mind was also thinking quickly. Her tone became gentler, and she even showed a rare smile to Xiao Pingon. Your Excellency Luo has saved countless Chinese people in the 11th district tonight. I wonder if you would like to return to the 11th district with me and meet the people there. Many Chinese people in the 11th district are very grateful to you and would like to thank you in person. If you have any requests, you can make them. Haha, there's no need to go back. Just ask the people in the 11th district to clean up the battlefield and dispose of the corpses. Don't cause any epidemics. As for gratitude, if you have any rare realm beads that you would like to give to me as a token of appreciation, I will not refuse. Luo and was his doppelganger. Once this doppelganger completed the final integration, his realm would be restored, and he would be able to integrate the realm beads. The materials in the space warehouse of the secret mandala belonged to two different worlds. He could not bring things from different worlds back through his doppelganger. This was limited by the laws of physics. However, the realm of cultivation was only related to the spiritual body. The integration of the realm beads in this world and in Yuanxiu would have the same effect for Xiaopinggan. They could both improve his realm. At this moment, the only useful resource on Earth for Xiaopinggan was the realm beads. It was just that the number of rare realm beads on Earth was even rarer. However, it was not that there were none. Therefore, for Xiaopinggan, the greatest practical significance of his doppelganger was to expand his channels to obtain rare realm beads. This was also one of the important reasons why he returned to Earth. Fang Lingyin was a little surprised that Lin Fan would ask for the boundary pearl so directly. Shouldn't a so-called expert like Lin Fan be modest and decline at this moment? Why did he take advantage of the situation and ask for a rare boundary pearl the moment he opened his mouth? He was too realistic. There are no rare realm beads in the 11th district at the moment. If you need them, we will try our best to find them. However, if we find them, how can we give them to you? Fang Lingxian was also testing the waters. She wanted to know the background of this powerful summoner in front of her. At the very least, she wanted to see if they could work together again. I can't tell you my current whereabouts. If you find a rare realm bead and want to thank me, hang a red balloon on the tower. I'll go to the 11th district to find you after I see it. By the way, are you also a summoner of the Great Fire Country Committee of Order? Fang Lingyi nodded. Her identity was naturally a secret to most people. But since this man knew Fang Lingshan, and Fang Lingshan was also in the Committee of Order, he should be able to guess her identity. Therefore, there was no need to keep her identity a secret in front of this man. Yes, I am also a summoner of the Committee of Order in the Fire Country. The Committee of Order has a new mission in Paris? I have no comment. Xiaopinggan smiled. Sorry, I was just curious. I'm very happy to have met you today, but don't follow me anymore. Otherwise, I'll have to knock you out. I hope we'll have a chance to meet again. By the way, if your Great Fire Country Committee of Order has any missions and wants to ask for external help, I'll be happy to do so, as long as there are rare realm beads. After saying this, Xiaopinggan's figure slowly melted into the night under Fang Lingyin's eyes. Fang Lingxian didn't chase after him. She just furrowed her delicate eyebrows and analyzed what Xiaopinggan had just said from beginning to end. Judging from everything that happened tonight, this powerful summoner named Luo and should be a powerhouse on the Chinese side. He hated the demon Ai and should not be an enemy. However, if she wanted to rope him in, it would not be so easy. She could not rely on principles. He only recognized rare realm beads. The Doomsday Gang and the Jackal Gang were finished tonight, and the situation in Paris was going to change greatly. In addition, a powerful summoner of unknown origin had appeared. Tonight's situation had affected his mission, and he had to report it to the headquarters. Also, she had to investigate Luo An's origins. Fang Lingyin glanced in the direction Xiaopinggan had disappeared, and her figure slowly melted into the shadows behind her. After leaving Fang Lingyin and turning 2 streets, Xiaopinggan took out Emily's Citroën. Xiaopinggan drove the old Citroën through the empty streets of Paris in the dark. It was a special feeling, and he even deliberately circled the Arc de Triomphe. Fang Lingyin's appearance reminded Xiaopinggan of his old friends, Mo Yanxiao, Tu Polu, Chao Xinghua, and Qing, Li Yunzhou, Fang Lingshan, and Lao Zhou. Their faces flashed in Xiaopinggan's mind from time to time. I wonder if these old friends are doing well? They must have never thought that I would be able to return. The Doomsday Gang is actually controlled by the Demon Eye. I wonder how many people that evil organization has in Paris. I wonder if the Committee of Order is also in Paris. Could be related to this? It is a gain to be able to reconnect with the Committee of Order through Fang Lingyin. The Committee of Order must have many rare realm beads. As long as I show my ability and value, I can use my identity as external help to obtain realm beads from the Committee of Order in the future. Xiaopinggan was previously a member of the Committee of Order, so he knew very well that many of the missions of the Committee of Order did not have to be completed by the summoners of the Committee of Order. In fact, They could ask for external help or cooperate with intelligence agencies and summoner organizations of other countries. In short, he was very satisfied with everything tonight. He drove back to Pierrefitte. As soon as the car arrived at the entrance of Emily's villa, the door opened. Emily had not slept and had been waiting for Xia Pingon to return. Xia Pingon parked the car in the villa, and Emily was already standing in front of him. Compared to the chaos outside, Pierrefitte's villa area was as quiet as a paradise. Teacher, Paris was very chaotic tonight. There were gunshots everywhere, and there seemed to be explosions. Where did you go? Emily stared at Xia Pingon in confusion. For some reason, she felt that he was a little mysterious today. Could it be that the huge commotion in Paris had something to do with him? I went out shopping and bought some things. It's indeed very chaotic outside. You can train in the villa for the next 2 weeks. Let's not run around. Come here, there's some food in the car. Help me carry it down. Xia Pingon said casually. He had put some things he got from the butcher's warehouse in the car, so as to save himself the trouble of purchasing them in the next few days. After tonight's chaos, Paris would definitely not be peaceful for a period of time. At the sight of the things piled up in the back of Xia Pingon's car, Emily's attention was immediately diverted to the things in the car. At the sight of those things, her face was full of surprise as she exclaimed, "I'm as caviar, salt flour that Brittany eats, canned bluefin tuna, smoked stout sausages, canned truffles, certain cheese, red wine from Chateau Latour. Oh my God, these things are enough for us to eat for a month. Where did you get them? I'm as caviar, and canned truffles can't even be bought with money now. Summoners can always get things. By the way, the clothes you chose for me are not bad. I like them very much." The two of them unloaded the things from the car and stuffed them into the cold storage at home. Emily seemed to have forgotten to ask about Xia Pingon's whereabouts. She directly prepared a potato with smoked stout sausages, bread, caviar, and red wine for Xia Pingon. The two of them ate a delicious supper while listening to the occasional gunshots in the dark outside. After that, they returned to their rooms to rest. Early the next morning, Xia Pingon woke up, washed up, and went downstairs. Emily had already prepared a delicious breakfast. After a night's rest, the divine energy available in Xia Ping and secret mandala continued to increase. It had almost reached over 1,900 points. When they were eating breakfast, Xia Pingon's heart skipped a beat. He took a plate and waved his hand, and 30 dark red pills appeared on the plate. Emily stared at them with her eyes wide open, as if she was watching a magic show. Here are 30 pills. Take one every day. Remember, don't eat more than that. After eating, you have to hurry up and train according to the method I taught you. That way, you can better absorb the effects of the pills. Teacher, what are these pills for? Emily took one of the pills and sniffed it lightly. This smell is a little strange. It smells a little like a sea urchin that was fished out of a thick soup. These are body-strengthening pills. After eating these, your physical fitness should be able to prepare to fuse with the realm pearl. These body-strengthening pills were refined from the demon rats that he had hunted in the subway yesterday. If it weren't for those demon rats, Xia Pingon really wouldn't have been able to make these body-strengthening pills. He would have had to find a way to hunt for demons. Are all summoners so amazing that they can conjure pills out of thin air? Emily asked enviously. You'll know when you become a summoner. Remember, take one pill every morning. Don't eat more than that. What if I accidentally eat more than that? If you become ugly, strong masseter muscles grow on your face, and your face becomes like a poker card, then don't blame me for not warning you. Xia Pingon threatened. Emily's face turned pale. She couldn't help but touch her cheeks and quickly nodded. Teacher, don't worry. I'll only take one pill a day. I won't eat more than that. Okay. For the next half a month, Paris was in chaos. Xia Pingon and Emily didn't walk out of the villa's door. Xia Pingon also didn't care about the chaos and disputes outside. Xia Pingon ate and slept every day. When he had time, he would instruct Emily in training her body or try to refine new disc arrays. His spirit body and physical body were rapidly fusing. Even if he didn't do anything, his strength and physical condition were still rapidly improving every day. Finally, after half a month, Xiaoping's spirit body and physical body had completely fused and transformed. The clone mystic technique on Earth was finally completed. The Sixth Sun realm Xiaoping was finally completely revived in Paris. Chapter 507. The weather is so strange. There's too much lightning. Emily muttered softly as she stood in front of a telescope on the third floor of the villa, her forehead still covered in sweat. She stood in front of a telescope on the third floor of the villa and looked at the weather outside. The rumbling of thunder reverberated throughout the entire Paris. Paris had a temperate oceanic climate, and it was rainy all year round. However, the weather in Paris today was a little abnormal. Half an hour ago, the sky was still clear, but in the blink of an eye, the sky was covered in dark clouds. Bolts of lightning were like silver snakes darting through the clouds. Violent torrential rain poured down, enveloping the entire Paris in a misty rain. There was too much lightning. The entire Paris seemed to have become a thunderstorm zone. Emily saw the top of the tall iron tower in the distance being struck by lightning from time to time. Sparks flew everywhere, and the entire iron tower seemed to have become a huge lightning rod, attracting all the lightning. Lightning struck the iron tower from time to time, and bolts of lightning danced wildly on the roof of the church not far away, illuminating the sky and earth in a ghastly white. Some lightning struck the Seine River, and even the water in the Seine was boiling. Although the sound of the thunder reverberated through the bulletproof glass of the windows, it was still quite loud when it reached the house. Lightning in Paris was mostly in the summer, and the highest frequency was in April, May, and May. It was already September now, and Paris rarely encountered such violent lightning at this time of the year. The continuous lightning seemed to be indicating something, but Emily wasn't sure. She only felt her heart palpitate a little. Squeak! The sound of the door opening came from behind her. Emily turned around and saw Xiaoping walk in. "Teacher," Emily called out. Her gaze lingered on Xiaoping's face for a moment, and she was slightly surprised. Emily felt that her teacher seemed to be a little different from usual today, but she couldn't pinpoint exactly what was different. It was just that a woman's sixth sense was particularly strong. Xiaoping woke up a little late today, about 2 or 3 hours later than usual. After Emily finished her breakfast, she went to the training room on the third floor to begin her training. She didn't expect the situation to suddenly change, so she went to the window and looked through the telescope for a while before resting. The training room used to be Emily's dance studio and physical training area. There were also some tools and equipment inside, so she could train there. After half a month of training and the effects of the body-strengthening pills, the current Emily had been reborn. If she were to fight, 5 or 6 ordinary men would not be her match. Emily also knew that the body-strengthening pill that Xiaoping gave her must be very precious. She had never heard of something that could change an ordinary person's physique. Because of this, Emily respected Xiaoping even more. All-powerful summoners have a common trait, and that is self-control. "You are very good." Seeing Emily's sweat-drenched hair and half-wet vest, Xiaoping smiled as he praised Emily. "Teacher, wait a moment. I'll make breakfast for you," Emily immediately said. Cooking for Xiaoping had already become her habit. Moreover, Xiaoping's appetite was astonishing. He had extremely high requirements for 3 meals a day. "No need. I'm not very hungry this morning. The weather in Paris today is very strange. There's actually a thunderstorm," Emily said as she looked out the window again. She realized that in the blink of an eye, the dark clouds in the sky outside had actually slowly dissipated, and the thunderstorm had also stopped. It was really strange. This is for you." Xiaoping extended his hand. In his hand was a golden spider that was about 2/3 the size of a palm. The golden spider was very lifelike. Its legs were completely spread out, and its metal back was inlaid with a circle of small, sparkling diamonds. It looked like an exquisite hairpin. "Ah, teacher, is this a spider-shaped wristband?" Emily happily took the metal spider. She didn't expect Xiaoping to give her such a beautiful accessory. "This isn't a wristband," Drip a drop of your blood on the spider's back, and you'll know. Emily already had unconditional trust in Xiao Pingon. When she heard Xiao Pingon's words, Emily didn't think too much about it. She saw that the spider's pair of forelimbs were a little sharp, so she used the spider's forelimbs to prick her finger and dripped a drop of blood on the spider's back. As soon as the blood dripped, the spider's body made a few slight cracking sounds. Then it moved. In the blink of an eye, it became a living spider. It crawled along Emily's hand, forearm, arm, all the way to Emily's shoulder. It can actually move, Emily exclaimed with a look of disbelief. Teacher, is this a robotic spider? This isn't a robotic spider, but it's similar to one. As a summoner, I call a puppet spider. If you encounter any danger when I'm not by your side, it can protect you. Protect me? Emily blinked in disbelief. How can this little thing protect me? You can try. Give it a command in your heart and let it attack something. Emily's gaze circled around the room. Her eyes immediately fixed on a 5-kilogram dumbbell placed on a gym rack next to her. She gave the command in her heart to attack. Once the command was given, the puppet spider bounced up from her shoulder instantly. Its speed was incomparably fast, and it landed beside the 5-kilogram dumbbell. With a faint flash, the puppet spider bounced back and landed on Emily's shoulder. The metal rod in the middle of the 5-kilogram dumbbell had already been broken into 2 halves, as if it had been cut by a sharp weapon. Emily was dumbfounded. If such a terrifying weapon landed on a person's vital parts, such as the head or throat, wouldn't it be a one-hit kill? Xiao Pingon gently pointed at the puppet spider, and it crawled to Emily's left wrist. Its legs closed together, and with a click, it stopped moving. It looked like a spider-shaped metal bracelet. Unless it's necessary, don't let others know that you have such a thing on you. Most summoners don't have such a thing. If others know that you have such a thing on you, it will arouse jealousy and may even bring disaster. Xiao Pingon warned seriously. Xiao Pingon did not know if there were any summoners on Earth who had mastered the mechanism technique. In any case, none of the summoners from the Committee of Order that he had interacted with before had mastered this ability. This simple spider puppet was nothing among the summoners in the Yuanxio world, but on Earth, it was definitely a rare item. It might even be the only one. In order to disguise this thing as a bracelet, he had deliberately embedded a diamond in it. For a summoner who had mastered the mechanism technique, embedding a diamond was too shameful. Emily nodded. The longer she spent with Xiao Pingon, the more she realized that her painting teacher was different from ordinary summoners. The value of the spider puppet in her hand was beyond her imagination. If such a thing could be sold, Emily felt that there would be people who would want it even if it was 100 million euros. Perhaps 100 million euros was too cheap. Teacher, can this thing pass the security check? Emily looked at the spider bracelet on her hand. This bracelet did not move at all. It was impossible to imagine that it had done such a shocking thing just now. Yes, if it passes the security check, this thing will be a piece of jewelry. You can take it off and make it stay still. Teacher, why did you think of giving me this thing? Xiao Pingon rubbed his face. I have to go into seclusion for a period of time. When I'm in seclusion, I won't be able to take care of you. I'll be more at ease if you have this thing on you. Don't relax during this period. When I come out of seclusion, I'll find time to guide you in fusing with the realm bead. Now that he had mastered the secret doppelganger technique, he had left the god-slaying bug world for a period of time. It was about time for him to return to the god-slaying bug world. After all, that was his foundation. Xiao Pingon's place of seclusion was the underground shelter in Emily's villa. He placed the refined tortoiseshell 5 elements inverted 8 trigrams sword formation disc and 2 spider puppets in the underground shelter in Emily's house. He also told Emily how to contact him in an emergency. Then, after setting up the soul power protection boundary, Xiao Pingon's doppelganger entered the embryonic breathing realm. His spiritual body instantly left the doppelganger. A few seconds later, in the conch shell dojo in the undead sea, Xiao Pingon, who was sitting cross-legged, suddenly opened his eyes. Chapter 508. Almost at the same time, when Xia Pinggan's spirit left Paris, Luoyin's photo and information gradually appeared in the center of a huge electronic screen in a basement somewhere in the 11th arrondissement of Paris. Fang Lingxian was standing in front of the electronic screen and reading the information from China. She looked a bit excited, but pretended to be calm. On the screen, Luoyin's hair was a little long. He was wearing sportswear, loose denim overalls, and a cap. His face was full of youthfulness, and the words artistic youth were written on his face. Fang Lingxuan's sharp eyes scanned the face on the screen inch by inch, not missing any details. Finally, she confirmed that this Luo was the same Luo and she had met that night. It was not a coincidence that they had the same name. Although the Luo in the photo and the Luo and she had met looked completely different, they were indeed the same person. Lingxian, this is the information we just got from Huaxia. Several national data centers in Huaxia suffered heavy losses in the heavenly tribulation. Therefore, it took us a lot of effort to get this information. Are you sure this person is the powerful summoner you met? A serious-looking, gray-haired, bespectacled man in a black suit appeared on the split screen of the electronic screen and was having a video call with Fang Lingxian. Behind this middle-aged man was the symbol of the Committee of Order of the Great Fire Country. The basement where Fang Lingxian was in was actually one of the intelligence bases of the Committee of Order of the Great Fire Country in Paris. Yes, I'm sure it's him. He has the same name and looks. Fang Lingxian nodded affirmatively. That's strange. The middle-aged man on the screen frowned. 3 years ago, this Luo was just a student at an art school in Huaxia. Later, he went to France to study at his own expense. During the Huaxia College entrance examination, he didn't pass the physical screening of summoners, so he wasn't qualified to fuse with the Realm Pearl. In Huaxia's records, his resume and past are very clean. We can't find any connection between him and summoners. His parents have divorced and formed their own families, but they're still in Huaxia. Before the paralysis in Paris, he was still in contact with his family. The last time his father transferred money to his bank account was 2 years ago. He gave him about 5,000 euros. After that, he couldn't contact him. Director, I don't know what happened, but the person I met that night was indeed this man. His name and facial features are exactly the same. Judging from his strength, this Luo should be around the 7th Yuan realm. I'm no match for him, Fang Lingxian replied. Normally, a summoner who can reach 3rd elemental realm wouldn't be a nobody. We can find this information in our intelligence database. This person only became famous after reaching 7th elemental realm. It doesn't make sense. Are you sure he didn't disguise himself? I'm not completely sure, but he seems to know our Committee of Order very well, and he's not afraid to come into contact with us. In terms of position, I think he's completely hostile to the Demon Eyes, and he's very resolute and ruthless. Fang Lingxian reported to the screen. Our mission in Paris has been without any clues in recent months. From the intelligence, the Demon Eyes' nuclear materials disappeared after being transported to Paris. After Sasa's identity was exposed, I followed the clues of the Doomsday Gang and found that Sasa had dealings with the international arms dealer, Alamov, who had been silenced. The Doomsday Gang's smuggling and drug trafficking network might have once transported nuclear materials to Paris, but the ordinary members of the Doomsday Gang don't know about it. The situation in Paris is very chaotic now, and our intelligence station has lost some people. If we want to investigate now, we won't be able to. Our previous relationships and intelligence network in Paris are basically paralyzed. I hope the headquarters can send experts to support us, or consider further contacting Luo and pulling him into our operation as foreign aid. Pull Luo in and invite an unknown summoner as foreign aid? The eyes of the man on the screen suddenly sharpened, and he pondered for a moment. Are you serious? Fang Lingxian said without thinking. I've thought about it many times these days. Pulling Luo in can make him work for us. On the one hand, we can use him. We lack the support of powerhouses above 6th elemental realm in Paris, and we're too weak. It's too difficult to mobilize powerhouses of this level from headquarters, and it's also very eye-catching. For example, the operation of the Doomsday Gang and the Jackal Gang a few days ago almost caused us to be annihilated. In addition, we can continue to confirm his identity. If he's not Luo, and we can find out his purpose of pretending to be Luo and his relationship with Luo and in China. If he's really Luo, and then how did an ordinary Chinese student advance to 7th elemental realm within 3 years after coming to Paris? I think there might be many things hidden behind this that are worth exploring. I'll consider it. However, the transfer of rare realm beads requires the consent of the headquarters. It depends on the old man's intentions. During this time, continue to maintain contact with the target. At the same time, don't give up on the Doomsday Gang. Once those nuclear materials are used by the Demon Eyes to create nuclear weapons or to create demon spirits in batches, it might bring disastrous consequences. Yes. The people from China's French branch will arrive in Paris in 2 days. They have an elite team that is also investigating the nuclear materials. Previously, this team was following up on the kidnapping of several nuclear physicists in Europe. After arriving in Paris, they will contact you. This is a joint operation. Fong Lingxian frowned slightly. Does China know about Luo? And the Committee of Order and the Dragon Group share intelligence in Europe. If they didn't know, you wouldn't have been able to see Luo and's information in China. After the call ended, the middle-aged man with slightly gray hair disappeared from the screen. Fong Lingxian looked at Luo and's information on the screen again. She had a feeling that the Dragon Group didn't come to Paris solely to investigate the nuclear materials. A powerful summoner at the Seven Sun Realm was a top-notch talent, no matter where he was. Luo and's previous display of his ability to wipe out the Doomsday Gang and the Jackal Gang had probably attracted the Dragon Group's attention. Hopefully, those old fogies from the Order Committee wouldn't be stingy this time and hurry up and bring over the rare realm pearl. Faintly, Fong Lingyin felt that Luo and might become the breakthrough point for their mission this time. This was a woman's intuition. Lingshan actually said that she didn't know or have never seen this man before. There must be some secret behind this. It had been almost 20 days since they left the god-slaying bug world. Xiao Pingan got up and dispersed the soul power protection barrier. He moved his body a little, and the blood in his entire body started to circulate rapidly again, returning to normal. Everything in the conch shell was fine, which meant that everything was normal here these days. Then, Xiao Pingan followed the conch shell and came to the bottom, where he saw Lu Yiqian. Lu Yiqian was sickly and listless, and even his fur had withered. When he saw Xiao Pingan, he immediately became energetic and started chirping in the cage, dancing with joy. Xiao Pingan looked at the cage and the blood on the ground, then looked at Lu Yiqian's missing front teeth. He laughed out loud. Lu Yiqian, you really use your teeth to grind this cage. How ruthless. I didn't misjudge you. Chirp, 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 chirp. Lu Yiqian tossed and turned in the cage, not knowing what he wanted to say. Seeing that you've stayed in the cage for so long, I'll bring you out to get some fresh air today. After saying that, Xiao Pingan put away the water-repelling pearl and directly left the conch shell. In the blink of an eye, he flew to the desolate island next to it. This was really a desolate place. The appearance of the island had almost never changed. It was the same as when Xiao Pingan came that day. On the desolate island, there were scattered conch shells everywhere on the beach. There was nothing else. Looking at the empty scenery and the slowly endless sea, Xiao Pingan felt relaxed and happy. His efforts these days had not been in vain. He had made a doppelganger, and it would be convenient for him to return to Earth in the future. Now, he only needed a few seconds to switch bodies between his main body and doppelganger. Xiao Pingan threw the cage containing Lu Yiqian into the sea and let the waves wash Lu Yiqian more than 10 times. It could be considered as giving Lu Yiqian a bath. When it was about time, he took the cage back. Lu Yiqian's entire body was dripping wet, like a skinny chicken that had lost all its feathers. He lay in the cage, and after vomiting seawater for a long time, he glanced at Xiao Pingan, who didn't care about him at all. He suddenly stretched his hand out of the cage and wrote a line of words on the beach. Do you want a rel pearl? Chapter 509. The crashing waves splashed on the beach, and those few words were especially eye-catching. After Lu Yiqian finished writing, he opened his eyes wide and looked up at Xiao Pingan with a cute and innocent expression. Xiao Pingan looked at Lu Yiqian and then at the words on the ground, and his eyes narrowed. Lu Yiqian naturally wouldn't be kind enough to give him the realm pearl. He was only using the realm pearl as bait to lure him in. However, he didn't need the realm pearl. Xiao Pingan thought for a moment and suddenly smiled. Are you trying to trick me? What do you have a realm pearl? I've already taken everything in your secret altar. When Lu Yiqian heard Xiao Pingan's reply, he immediately became spirited. He reached out and smoothed the sand on the ground and wrote again, I have a realm pearl somewhere else. Oh, is that so? Where do you have a realm pearl? Xiao Pingan asked calmly. Inside the cage, Lu Yibian pointed to the ground, then pointed to his own neck, making a few squeaking noises. Xiao Pingan made a hand seal and pointed at Lu Yiqian. A green light flew onto Lu Yiqian's body, and Lu Yiqian felt a chill in his throat, as if a lock had been unlocked. His tongue also seemed to have changed a little and became much more flexible. He immediately regained the ability to speak. What kind of mystic technique was this? It could turn him into a monkey and decide whether he could speak at any time. Lu Yiqian had never heard of this mystic technique before, and he was secretly shocked. I was an 8-sun realm expert before, so of course I had a realm pearl. I just didn't have it with me. Lu Yiqian spoke. His voice had the characteristics of a monkey's voice, which was abnormally sharp and slightly hoarse. It was very unpleasant to hear, but his words could be heard clearly. He grabbed the cage with both hands and looked at Xiao Pingan. That's right. It would be abnormal if an 8-sun realm expert didn't have a realm pearl. I was wondering why you didn't have a realm pearl on you. There's nothing wrong with your words. If you could take out a realm pearl, we could have a good chat. Xiao Pingan smiled and sat cross-legged on the beach, casually chatting with Lu Yiqian. Lu Yiqian became a little more spirited. May I ask, I have no enmity with you. Why did you scheme against me? Xiao Pingan laughed and said seriously with a simple and honest expression, Look at what you're saying. Who said I can't scheme against you if I have no enmity with you? You're treating me like an outsider. You're saying such childish things at your age. Lu Yiqian's face twitched when he heard this. He didn't know what to say. Xiao Pingan continued, Didn't we come to the god-slaying insect realm to find opportunities? An 8-sun realm expert has become a drowning dog. How can I miss this opportunity? Don't you think so? If you could scheme against other 8-sun realm, 9-sun realm, and demigod realm experts, would you miss it? I definitely wouldn't, Lu Yiqian immediately said. However, just as he finished speaking, a bright electric light appeared from Xiao Pingan's hand and landed on the cage. Lu Yiqian, who was in the cage, was caught off guard and screamed in pain from the electric current. The wet hair all over his body stood up and steamed. His hand that was holding onto the cage and the soles of his feet that were stepping on the cage suddenly emitted smoke and burned. His entire consciousness in his head instantly stopped in that electric light. His entire body fell into the cage, twitching and paralyzing for half a minute. Only then did Lu Yiqian come back to his senses. Panting, he stood up again and looked at Xiao Pingan with lingering fear in his eyes. Xiao Pingan was still smiling honestly. He raised a finger in front of him, but his tone was inexplicably cold. Remember the rules when communicating with me. Don't pretend to be a big shot in front of me and play tricks. To be honest, I gave you a chance to speak not because I wanted to listen to your lies and tell me how noble your character is, but because I want you to bring me benefits. Otherwise, why do you think I raised a monkey? I have hundreds of ways to make you understand. Not if you understand. Lu Yiqian quickly nodded. Okay, let's continue. Were you just now? Xiao Pingan smiled. Who are you? My name is not important. In order not to implicate my family and others, I used a fake name when I came to the god-slaying insect realm. You only need to remember one thing. If you don't know how to address me, you can call me Master. Xiao Pingan said with a smile. These words were both true and false. They could mislead Lu Yiqian's suspicions about his identity to other places, making him unable to figure out his background. Being together with someone like Lu Yiqian, Xiao Pingan was constantly having a battle of wits with this guy and reminding him to be careful. Master. Lu Yiqian's face stiffened. Yes, from now on, I'm your master, and your life is mine. You probably don't understand your situation, so I'll explain it to you now. You've been hit by my form-sealing secret technique. If I don't remove it for you, you can only be a monkey forever. At the same time, if I die, the form-sealing secret technique on your body will collapse and explode, instantly blowing you into a pile of minced meat. You'll be buried with me. I know you're ruthless enough. You're an 8th-sun realm expert, sinister and cunning. You've done many glorious deeds in the past and can be considered a top figure. If you want to scheme against me in the future, think about what I'm telling you first. Don't act smart and throw your life away. You knew me from before? Lu Yiqian was completely flustered. His expression changed once again. Even with his usual gloominess, his mind was in chaos. If this person in front of him died, he would be buried with him. Moreover, this person knew me from before. If he hadn't been schemed against and turned into a monkey, Lu Yiqian would have doubted Xiao Pingan's words. However, he was already in a cage and couldn't do anything about it. His life was completely in someone else's hands. Xiao Pingan's words were much more convincing to Lu Yiqian. There were truths and lies in those words, but Lu Yiqian couldn't distinguish them and thought that he had been targeted by Xiao Pingan since long ago. I've been watching you for a long time. If it weren't for the fact that you and the people from the Blood Demon Church were both injured, I wouldn't have been able to find a chance to attack you. My master is right. Evil is the source of happiness. Xiao Pingan laughed honestly. Evil is the source of happiness? This person is from the extermination sect? Or is he from the Ingod sect? Or is he related to those old farts? This person is proficient in formations and mechanisms. He's not someone that can be nurtured by an ordinary sect. Xiao Pingan's casual words caused the cunning Lu Yiqian to turn his eyes and swallow his saliva. His mind filled with many things in an instant. That's right. How did you end up fighting with the people from the Blood Demon sect? Have they already captured Xiao Pingan? Xiao Pingan asked deliberately. That's a coincidence, Lu Yiqian said. As soon as he said that, electric sparks landed on the cage again. Lu Yiqian once again experienced the terrifying electric torture that almost caused him to go into shock. When he regained consciousness, he was shaking all over. He looked at Xiao Pingan with eyes full of fear. Think carefully before you speak. Xiao Pingan smiled. In Lu Yiqian's eyes, that smile was like the devil's. I'll talk. I discovered that the people from the Blood Demon sect have captured Xiao Pingan. Lu Yiqian said hurriedly. How did you discover that? When Lu Yiqian recounted what happened, 2 more electric sparks flashed. Lu Yiqian, who was in the cage, was almost charred on the outside and tender on the inside, and was on the verge of collapse. He finally told everything about how he met Shui Li in Green Summit City, how he met Shui Li's incarnation, how he released the soul-seizing goo, how he discovered that Shui Li might be Xiao Pingan, and how he was captured by the Blood Demon sect. Until now, Lu Yiqian still believed in the information sent by his soul-seizing goo. Lu Yiqian absolutely didn't believe that someone could spit out the soul-seizing goo that had been swallowed. This was simply impossible. Even he couldn't do it, let alone a 6th-sun realm summoner. After Lu Yiqian finished explaining, Xiao Pingan could confirm that this guy was finally more honest. In that case, Xiao Pingan has already died at the hands of the Blood Demon sect's Golden Moon Palace Lord. Xiao Pingan deliberately asked with a frown. That's definitely the case. However, I reckon that the Golden Moon Palace Lord hasn't completed the sacrifice and only killed Xiao Pingan. At most, he can only obtain the eternal body bestowed by the demon god sovereign. Lu Yiqian said with melancholy. Xiao Pingan sighed. What a pity. What a good opportunity. Lu Yiqian also sighed sorrowfully and shed tears. This encounter was the turning point of his life. He didn't get Xia Pingon and even lost himself to this person's scheme. You don't have to sigh. My goal in entering the god-slaying bug world this time is to advance to the Nine Sun realm. I can promise you that as long as I can advance to the Nine Sun realm, the day I advance will be the day I return your freedom. At that time, I will completely remove your form sealing technique and set you free. Therefore, it's not that you don't have a chance to regain your freedom. As long as you can help me increase my strength as quickly as possible, the time you have to be my slave will be shortened as much as possible. Xia Pingan threw Lu Yiqian a ray of hope. Lu Yiqian's eyes lit up, as if a little light had been ignited, but his tone was still somewhat doubtful. Really? Xia Pingan was serious, and his tone was compassionate. Cough, cough. Heaven will always leave a way out. Although tricking others is the foundation of happiness, and although I scheme to use you as a sacrificial pawn on my path of cultivation, my master also said that we have to do things in accordance with the way of heaven. We can't leave no way out for others. That would be going against heaven. It would make heaven unhappy. Only by leaving a way out for others will it be in accordance with heaven's will. Therefore, even if we set up the 10 ultimate formations, we have to leave a way out for others. This way, the path to becoming a demigod will be smoother. The way out, and hope I leave for you, is to assist me in advancing to the Nine Sun realm. Whether you can grab hold of it, or eventually be buried with me, will depend on your ability. I racked my brains to trick you because I fancy your ability, and I want you to help me. Lu Yiqian stared blankly at Xia Pingan for a long time. Suddenly, he knelt down in the cage, tears streaming down his face. He kowtowed 3 times to Xia Pingan, and then he ruthlessly bit his finger, raised a monkey claw, and swore, "From today onwards, I, Lu Yiqian, will wholeheartedly assist Master in advancing to the Nine Sun realm, and will never betray you. If I, Lu Yiqian, violate this oath, may I die a horrible death." Xia Pingan also raised his hand and swore, "If I don't give Lu Yiqian his freedom after he assists me in advancing to the Nine Sun realm, and I don't remove his form-sealing technique, may I be abandoned by my sect, and may the fiend god Overlord hunt me down forever. Master, monkey." Separated by the cage, the man and monkey looked at each other affectionately. Lu Yiqian's monkey eyes were filled with tears of hope. Xia Pingan looked at Lu Yiqian with a comforting and hopeful gaze, and even he himself was almost moved. Cough, cough. That's right. Let's get back to the topic. Where were we? Realm Pearl. What do you have more realm pearls? Xia Pingan asked. Lu Yiqian wiped his tears and immediately said, "Master, I still have realm pearls in 2 places. Oh, you still have realm pearls in 2 places. Which 2 places? One place is Undying Sea's Sea Snake Island. I hid 2 realm pearls there. And the other place is Crouching Dragon Island's Thousand Treasure Hall. There are 3 realm pearls in Thousand Treasure Hall." Lu Yiqian obediently said. Chapter 510. 5 days later, 60 miles away from Sea Snake Island in the Undying Sea, Xia Pingan was flying in the sky with a cage in his hand. Lu Yiqian was inside the cage. At this moment, Sea Snake Island had already appeared in his sight. It was only a few hundred square kilometers large. Being far away from Cloud Island, it was one of the numerous islands scattered in the Undying Sea. Of course, this Sea Snake Island was much more prosperous than the island where Xia Pingan hid in the conch shell before. The surrounding waters of Sea Snake Island were blue waves and silver sands. The seawater here was crystal clear. Looking down from the sky, Zhang Tai could see large and small sandbars and islets in the sea from time to time. Many sandbars and islets were covered with large coconut trees. The scenery here was pretty good. If it was a vacation, such a place would definitely be a holy place. It was just that the people coming and going here were all summoners. As summoners who came to the god-slaying bug realm, probably not many had the intention of coming here for a vacation. The summoners who came here were all here for various cultivation resources. From time to time, summoners would fly across the sky. There were all kinds of summoners who came to god-killing insect realm, including many pets. It was not strange for Xia Pingon to carry a cage with a pitiful monkey in it. At most, they would throw a few more glances at him when they passed by him. Monkey, you used to be an 8 Suns realm summoner, but you only have 2 realm pearls on the Sea Snake Island. Do you feel a little shabby? Is it because you haven't opened your heart to me and are still worried about me? I feel that you still need to continue helping and saving you so that you won't go down the wrong path. Xia Pingon smacked his lips as he flew and glanced at Louis Xuan, who was in the cage. With only one glance, Louis Qian's face had been filled with horror as his hair almost stood on end. His blood froze all over while his muscles became stiff. It almost became a conditioned reflex. In the past few days, Louis Qian had a lot of heart-to-hearts with Xia Pingon. However, Xia Pingon's fingers with lightning sparks had also pointed at him many times. Xia Pingon said that the latter was to help and save him. It was for his own good so that he would not go astray. This way, they could have a better heart-to-heart. Louis Qian almost knelt down. With a long face, he hurriedly explained while staring at Xia Pingon's fingers, fearing that lightning sparks would appear on his fingers again. Master, I'm innocent. I really only have 2 realm beads on this island. After reaching the 8 Suns realm, I've almost fused all the realm beads that can be fused. There are very few realm beads that haven't been fused, and it's very difficult to find one. As for those realm beads that have been fused, there's no need for us to deliberately collect them. Even if we get them, we will exchange them for other cultivation resources and rarer realm beads, or leave them for our sect or junior disciples. I'm all alone, so those realm beads that have been fused are useless to me, and I don't need to leave them for anyone. I've already exchanged them for other things. Now, I only have a few realm beads that I haven't fused with yet. At the same time, I'm not confident in fusing with them, so I'm keeping them. I want to see if I can find the corresponding spirit sense crystal. If Master doesn't believe me, you can go to the Million Treasure Hall and ask if I've exchanged for many realm beads in the past few years. You're being so loud. Are you trying to attract the attention of other summoners? Xia Pingon smiled. No, Master told me to shut up, so I shut up. Louis Qian hurriedly closed his mouth that was missing his front teeth. The reason you just gave is reasonable. Let me take a look first. With just this sentence, Louis Qian almost shed tears of gratitude. As Xia Pingon spoke, he casually pointed at Louis Qian. With a flash of light, Louis Qian once again felt his throat tighten. His tongue was tied, and he instantly lost the ability to speak. Louis Qian knew that Xia Pingon was worried about him and didn't want him to make a ruckus when there were people around, so he took back his ability to speak. He also became well-behaved and stayed in the cage, not daring to look around. Xia Pingon waved his hand, and a layer of black cloth covered the outside of the iron cage. The people outside couldn't see what was inside, and Louis Qian couldn't see anyone or anything outside. Those who didn't know would think that he was raising a bird in the cage. In order to keep a person honest, the simplest and most effective method was to cut off information from the other party. Soon, Xia Pingon flew to the Sea Snake Island. Looking down from the sky, he could see that in the southeast of the Sea Snake Island, there was a huge sea snake fossil more than 2,000 meters long on the island. That was how the Sea Snake Island got its name. The huge sea serpent fossil was a wonder of the world on Earth, but here, no one was interested in it. Not many people took a second look at it. In the middle of the Sea Snake Island, there was a small lake. Beside the lake was the gathering area of the summoners on the Sea Snake Island. They formed a few medium-sized towns and looked quite lively. After flying around the island, Xia Pingon threw a glance at Louis Qian's residence. Louis Qian's residence was beside the lake in the center of the island, which was the most lively place on the island. Many small courtyards were around the lake. Xia Pingon was not in a hurry to go to Louis Qian's courtyard. Instead, he flew to a town over 6 miles away and landed on the bustling street of the town. After walking on the street for a while, Xia Pingon saw a magnificent 6-story boat on the street. Many summoners were coming and going here. The aroma of the dishes in the boat could be smelt on the street. Therefore, Xiao Pingon directly entered the boat with the cage covered with black cloth. "Sir, are you alone?" The waiter who was summoned immediately greeted him with a smile. I'm alone. Just find me a table," Xiao Pingon said as he glanced around the boat. The dishes in the boat were almost all kinds of seafood from the undead sea. "All right, sir, please follow me." The waiter quickly brought Xiao Pingon to the second floor of the boat, found a small square table, and invited Xiao Pingon to sit down. "Just give me a few of your signature dishes," Xiao Pingon said as he put the cage onto the table. "All right, please wait a moment, sir." Judging from the aura of the people in the boat, almost all of them were six-sun realm summoners. There was almost no seven-sun realm summoners in the boat. The seabed of the sea near the Sea Snake Island produced several precious herbs and special minerals unique to the undead sea. There were fewer chances to obtain realm pearls here, so most of the summoners gathered on the Sea Snake Island were six-sun realm summoners. These summoners either sat alone or in groups of twos and threes. They ate and drank while chatting. It was no different from a gathering of ordinary people. Therefore, the boat was quite lively. This kind of place was also the easiest place to hear all kinds of news. Xiao Pingon summoned the Boy of Fortune with a thought. The Boy of Fortune mischievously jumped on Xiao Pingon's body twice before disappearing in a flash. Xiao Pingon asked the Boy of Fortune to investigate Lu Yiqian's residence first to see if there were any traps or dangers around the residence, and whether the realm pearl that Lu Yiqian had mentioned was in the place where he had hidden it. Xiao Pingon didn't dare to be careless against a crafty old fox like Lu Yiqian. Who knew if Lu Yiqian had prepared a trap here and deliberately led him to jump into it? In short, there was nothing wrong with being careful. There was no need to be in a hurry. "Sir, your food and wine are here. This is the Snow Wave wine specially brewed in this restaurant. This jug of wine is on the house." The waiter quickly served Xiao Pingon the food and wine. There were 3 dishes, 1 soup, and a jug of wine. It looked quite delicious. Xiao Pingon perked up his ears to listen to the summoner's conversations in the boat as he ate. Suddenly, a keyword in the conversation of a table of guests near the window attracted Xiao Pingon's attention. "Have you heard? Skyflower Island sank 2 days ago." Old Freak Tianhua was a 9-sun realm expert and was 1 step away from becoming a demigod. He was actually forced to flee for his life and even lost his foundation in the undead sea. I heard about it too. The ones who attacked seemed to be 2 elders from the Wanshin sect. Old Freak Tianhua was seriously injured. I don't know how Old Freak Tianhua provoked the Wanshin sect, but the 2 murderous gods from the Wanshin sect came to kill him directly. Who doesn't know that the people from the Wanshin sect are the most difficult to deal with? The elders of the Wanshin sect had finally arrived. Old Monster Tianhua had finally tasted the taste of retribution. He had become a stray dog. TSK. Good news. Xiao Pingon raised his wine cup, and the corners of his mouth curled up slightly. Chapter 511. Have you heard that a large number of experts from the Blood Demon Church have arrived at the Undying Sea? Of course, I have heard of such a big matter. Previously, I heard from a few big shots that the experts of the Blood Demon Church came to the Undead Sea to look for Xiao Pingon. The Blood Demon Church seemed to have discovered something and even fought with someone on the Cloud Island. I also heard that the center of the anomaly when the Sage Master was born was in the Undying Sea. The Blood Demon Church thinks that it has something to do with Xiao Pingon. Is Xiao Pingon also in the Undying Sea? TSK. Whoever can find Xiao Pingon will be rich and might even become a god. Xiao Pingon listened while eating. During this meal, Xiao Pingon also heard a lot of news about the Undying Sea in the restaurant. Among them, there were 2 important news. One was related to the 10,000 Deities sect. After the 10,000 Deities sect's Undying City was destroyed, 2 elders rushed to the Undying Sea and finally stabilized the situation in the 10,000 Deities sect. At the same time, they chased after Old Monster Tianhua, causing a huge commotion. Apart from the Wanshin sect, the most popular topic in the Undying Sea was him. With the arrival of the experts from the Blood Demon Church, the rumor that Xiao Pingon was in the Undying Sea began to spread. Many of the diners in the restaurant were talking about it enthusiastically. On the surface, Xiao Pingon was eating without batting an eyelid, but his heart was secretly palpitating. He couldn't stay in the undying seat any longer. It was too lively. He had to leave immediately after getting the Realm Pearl. Apart from the Blood Demon Church, there were definitely a large number of people like Lu Yiqian who wanted his life. Child of Fortune had already returned. He carefully checked the inside and outside of Lu Yiqian's house and didn't find any abnormalities. There were no traps or special arrangements. This made Xiao Pingon slightly relieved. Seeing that it was about time, Xiao Pingon asked the waiter to settle the bill. "Sir, it'll be 80 gold coins." The waiter walked over with a smile. Xiao Pingon put down the 80 gold coins, turned around and left the restaurant, and went to the street outside. The bosses who opened restaurants and served summoners in the god-slaying insect world might be the real winners of the god-slaying insect world. Each and every summoner who came here wanted to get realm pearls, divine springs, and all kinds of rare resources. They treated gold coins like copper coins. And these people who ran businesses here, as long as they did well, they could make tens or even hundreds of times more profits. After accumulating for a long time, it was very terrifying. Others wanted to come to the god-slaying insect realm to dig for gold, but these people were selling shovels in the god-slaying insect realm. This was the business with the least risk and a guaranteed profit. If it wasn't for his special situation, Xiao Pingon would have wanted to become a lifestyle player here. Less than half a mile after leaving the restaurant, he arrived in front of an inn. The rooms in this inn were all small courtyards suitable for summoners. Xiao Pingon first asked for a small courtyard and set up the tortoiseshell 5 elements inverted 8 trigrams sword array in the courtyard. Then, he left Lu Yiqian in the courtyard and went out by himself, soaring into the sky. After hiding in the sky, Xiao Pingon arrived in the sky above Lu Yiqian's small courtyard on the Sea Snake Island in a moment. He descended from the sky and took out the key that Lu Yiqian used to open the courtyard's restriction. Without triggering the restriction in the courtyard, Xiao Pingon easily entered the courtyard. Lu Yiqian was a cunning old fox, and this courtyard was one of his 3 burrows. He hid 2 realm pearls here, but he did the opposite. The whole courtyard only had ordinary guard restrictions and no array protection. When others saw it, they would think that this was the residence of an ordinary summoner. Even if this place was often empty, others wouldn't think that there was anything good here. They wouldn't think that it was the hiding place of an 8-sun realm expert on the Sea Snake Island, and they wouldn't risk fighting with the owner of this place to break in. Therefore, it was safe. It was like a guy in rags walking on the street with millions of dollars in a 5-yuan snakeskin bag. It wouldn't arouse others' jealousy. Instead, it was the safest place. After opening the door of the outer courtyard and entering the empty living room, Xiao Pingon glanced over the structure of the living room. Then, he immediately jumped onto the beam. At the place where a pillar and the beam of the roof were in contact, Xiao Pingon groped for a while and gently removed a wooden wedge that was used for mortise and tenon structure on the beam. Inside the beam, under the wooden wedge, there was a groove where 2 pearls were wrapped in cotton cloth. After removing the cotton cloth, the 2 realm pearls appeared in front of Xiao Pingon's eyes. One of the pearls was golden, and there were 4 small words on it. Stone ox paved the way. The other one was black, solemn, and deep, and there seemed to be drops of tears flowing inside it. There were 3 golden words on it. Falling tears steal. Lu Yiqian was cunning and experienced, but he didn't know what kind of things could be summoned or what kind of spells could be used after fusing with this stone ox paved the way realm pearl. Because in the circle of summoners, except for some realm pearls that had been exposed and known to the public, there were many rare realm pearls that could be summoned after fusing with them. This was a secret that was extremely valuable. Even if ordinary people succeeded in fusing with it, they wouldn't easily tell others what kind of summoning spells they could obtain after fusing with the realm pearl. However, Lu Yiqian knew what the falling tears steel could summon. According to him, after fusing with this realm pearl, one could summon a mysterious and powerful stone steel. Once the stone steel was summoned, it could make the other party's summoned soldiers, battle dolls, and formations to cease their fighting spirit. This spell was naturally very useful, but there were too few divine sense crystals that could be compatible with this realm pearl. There weren't many summoners who had fused with this realm pearl. Without a divine sense crystal, the success rate of fusing with this realm pearl was less than 1 in 1,000, and the failure rate was close to 40%. Therefore, even if he had the realm pearl, Lu Yiqian didn't dare to fuse with it. Xiao Pingan put away the 2 realm pearls, put the wooden wedge back in place, and flew down the beam. He walked out of the house and came to the courtyard. He directly rose into the air and disappeared into the sky in the blink of an eye. Xiao Pingan concealed his figure and circled around in the air. After confirming that no one was following or paying attention to him, he leisurely returned to the courtyard of his inn. Lu Yiqian was still locked in the cage and didn't know anything. He was a complete enigma and didn't even know if Xiao Pingan had left the house. Xiao Pingan didn't pay attention to Lu Yiqian. He went to the cultivation room in the courtyard, took out the realm pearl, and fused with it. The first realm pearl that Xiao Pingan took out was the stone ox to open the way. In a short while, Xiao Pingan's whole body was wrapped in a cocoon of light. When he opened his eyes, he saw a majestic man sitting on the throne in the grand hall of the Qin state. It was King Qin Hui. In the grand hall, there was also an old general with a full beard and armor, who was giving an impassioned speech. Xiao Pingan himself was wearing the armor of a general, standing in front of a group of generals. Who am I? Xiao Pingan was a little confused at this time. He didn't fully understand his role at the moment, so he remained silent and observed the situation in the grand hall. Your Majesty, the most difficult thing for our army to conquer Shu is not war, but the road to Shu. It is difficult for carriages and horses to pass through. In many places, one man can hold the pass against 10,000 men. It is difficult for our army to reach there. If we dig a road to Shu from the outside, it will cost a lot of money and take a long time. We will also be harassed by Shu, which will make the Shu army take precautions. If the two armies confront each other on the road to Shu for a long time, it will be extremely disadvantageous to our army. The old general's voice was loud and impassioned, and everyone in the grand hall could hear it. My lords, although it is difficult to build a road, don't you have a comprehensive plan to destroy Shu? Ba and Shu are fighting each other. This is a good opportunity. King Qin Hui sat on the throne, looked around, and asked. All the ministers in the grand hall were silent. They all looked embarrassed, or avoided King Qin Hui's eyes. Everyone knew that the road to Shu was difficult. Now that the Qin state wanted to destroy Shu, who had the ability to open the road to Shu so easily, this kind of thing couldn't be solved by just talking. Your Majesty, I think we can postpone the discussion of destroying Shu. A man standing at the head of the civil officials walked out. He was wearing the crown of the prime minister, and he had a beautiful mustache above his lips. He looked dignified and eloquent. The most important thing for the Qin state now is to solve the threat of Korea to the east of the Qin state. How dare Korea send troops to attack the Qin state? It is really abominable. We can't tolerate it. Only by defeating Korea, taking Sanchuan County, and opening the road to Yiyang can Qin state dominate the world. Chapter 512. As soon as the man opened his mouth, Xiao Pingan knew that he must be Zhang Yi. Zhang Yi entered the Qin Empire and was recognized by King Qin Hui. He was now the prime minister. Zhang Yi had been advocating for the Qin Empire to attack the Han Kingdom. Ba State and Shu State are just small countries. At this moment, when the two countries are fighting, it seems that Qin State can gain an advantage, but the road to Shu State is very difficult. If we don't open the Chisel-Shu Road, it will be difficult for Qin State's army to enter Shu State. But once we open the Chisel-Shu Road, Ba State and Shu State will immediately know that Qin State wants to annex Shu State. Their disputes will immediately stop, and they will definitely unite to resist Qin State. In this way, Qin State has spent a lot of effort, but not only did we fail to annex Shu State, but also let Shu State unite. At the same time, We let Korea continue to attack Qin State's border and give Qin State an opportunity. Many of the officials in the hall heard Zhang Yi's words and nodded secretly. They whispered to each other. King Qin was also tempted. However, he was still hesitant. King Qin had long wanted to conquer the Chisel Shu Road. He wanted to destroy this small country in the southwest hinterland of the Qin Empire. He wanted to strengthen the Qin Empire's power and expand the Qin Empire's territory. Now that the Chisel Shu Road was fighting with each other, they both wanted the Qin Empire's help. If the Qin Empire just sat there and watched, they would miss the opportunity. King Qin Hui's eyes scanned the crowd and finally landed on Xia Pinggan's face. He saw that Xia Pinggan had been silent and calm in the hall. King Qin couldn't help but have an idea. General Sima, you once advocated for the annexation of the Chisel Shu Road. Right now, in the hall, do you have a good plan? General Sima? He was indeed Sima Qo. Note, Xia Pinggan thought to himself. Seeing that everyone was looking at him, he took 2 steps forward and bowed to King Qin. Your Majesty, regarding the Prime Minister's words, I do not agree. Oh, King Qin was suddenly energized. General, please elaborate. If my Qin Empire wants to dominate the world, the strategy is just an auxiliary. The foundation is to make the country rich and the people strong. We need to have a vast territory, a well-stocked warehouse, a surplus of strength, and sufficient provisions. This is the foundation of dominating the world. If Qin Empire can annex Shu land, it will greatly increase our national strength, and we will also have one less problem. This will allow Qin Empire to gain the upper hand in the war with other countries. But if we attack South Korea and threaten the Emperor of Zhou, not only will we not gain any benefits, but we will also have a bad reputation. If Zhou and Han are in danger, they will definitely join forces with Qi and Zhao will not sit back and watch. At this moment, if Qin Empire attacks South Korea and threatens the Emperor of Zhou, not only will we not gain any benefits, but we will also have a bad reputation. If Zhou and Han are in danger, they will certainly join forces with Qi and Zhao will not sit back and watch. The Chisel Shu Road is difficult. How can our army enter Chisel Shu Road? King Qin asked. My king, I have a plan that can solve the problem of the Shu Dao. Destroying Shu will be as easy as flipping my hand. He says so. This plan is a military secret. It is not appropriate to announce it here. Xia Pinggan smiled. Your Majesty, leave it to me. I can ask the king of Shu to fix the Chisel Shu Road. When the time comes, the Qin Empire can easily enter the Chisel Shu Road and destroy the Chisel Shu Road. Then, the Chisel Shu Road will become the territory of the Qin Empire. King Qin was overjoyed. He almost stood up from his throne. General, are you serious? The other officials also looked at Xia Pinggan with suspicion. What joke? Does he think the king of Shu is a fool? We are going to attack the Chisel Shu Road. And you want the king of Shu to fix the Chisel Shu Road for us? Xia Pinggan said confidently. Your Majesty and all the officials, please wait and see. If I cannot do it, I am willing to give my head to you. Although King Qin favored Zhang Yi, he was also very opinionated. When he heard that Xia Pinggan already had a plan to conquer Shu, it was exactly what he wanted. Thus, King Qin made the decision. Between attacking Han and attacking Shu, he immediately chose the latter. In the end, Xia Pinggan and Zhang Yi were both given a heavy responsibility by King Qin. King Qin put the two of them in charge of conquering the Chisel Shu Road. Giving Zhang Yi the heavy responsibility of conquering the Chisel Shu Road showed how shrewd King Qin was. After the court, the machinery of the Qin Empire started to move slowly. Just as Xia Pinggan walked out of the Qin palace, he heard a voice behind him. General Sima, please wait. Xia Pinggan turned around and saw Zhang Yi walking towards him with a smile. Zhang Yi was from the school of vertical and horizontal. Schools of vertical and horizontal were all thick-skinned and relied on their tongues to make a living. He did not take what happened in the court to heart. Actually, Zhang Yi could tell that the one who really wanted to conquer the Chisel Shu Road was still King Qin. King Qinhui had probably thought about it for more than a day, which was why he was so determined to support Sima Qiuo. As a school of vertical and horizontal, Zhang Yi naturally did not want to make King Qinhui unhappy. He wanted to go against his wishes, so he immediately went to find Sima Qiuo to discuss the matter of conquering the Chisel Shu Road. Minister, Xiao Pingan bowed slightly to Zhang Yi, who was walking towards him. What General Sima said makes sense. Please do not worry. Since His Majesty supports your suggestion, I will naturally support it as well. However, the Chisel Shu Road is the biggest obstacle for us to conquer the Chisel Shu Road. General, you said that you have a way to make the king of Shu open the way for us. Is that true? Of course. Xiao Pingan nodded. Oh, Heliangsa, can I know? Minister, you will be attacking the Chisel Shu Road with me. Of course you can know. Xiao Pingan turned his head and looked around. There was no one around, so he went to Zhang Yi's ear and whispered a few words. Zhang Yi's expression was first one of shock, then excitement, and finally admiration. If this technique is successful, it will not be difficult for us to conquer the Chisel Shu Road. I hope that you will support me. Zhang Yi smiled. This is the merit that His Majesty and you are giving me. How can I reject it? In this battle, I will rely on General Sima. As for the logistics of the army, please do not worry. I will personally supervise it. The two of them looked at each other and smiled. They both had a tacit understanding. Once he returned to the general's residence, Xiao Pingan immediately ordered his subordinates to find the best stonemason and goldsmith in the Qin kingdom. Half a month later, Xiao Pingan took the opportunity of patrolling the border and brought a group of people to the border between the Qin kingdom and the Chisel kingdom. He personally inspected the Chisel Road. A group of the best craftsmen in the Qin kingdom was in Xiao Pingan's team. On the surface, Xiao Pingan was inspecting the Chisel Road. In fact, he arranged for the craftsmen to start working quietly. Xiao Pingan set aside a special place in the military camp for the craftsmen to work. He even put a cow in there. The other soldiers were not allowed to get close. The craftsmen worked in the barracks for more than 10 days. One day, a subordinate came to report that the thing that Xiao Pingan asked the craftsmen to do was completed. Xiao Pingan personally went to check it out. When he arrived at the designated area, he saw that the stonemasons carved a lifelike stone cow out of stone. The goldsmiths took out a few big lumps of golden cow dung. Yes, it was cow dung. Cow dung made of gold, just like a real cow dung. Because the cow dung was too heavy, it took a lot of effort for one person to pick it up. It took 2 people to pick it up easily. Xiao Pingan checked it and nodded. He called the craftsman over and pointed to the stone cow. The place where the cows, there should be some golden cow dung. It's more like the craftsman immediately sighed in admiration. The general has sharp eyes. We didn't think it through. The goldsmiths and stonemasons discussed and immediately got busy. A few hours later, the roxbut was stained with some golden cow dung and golden powder. Seeing that the things were ready, Xiao Pingan immediately arranged for people to send the stone cow out of the military camp to the designated place tonight. A few days later, a group of soldiers at the Shu Pass patrolled the Shu Road outside the pass early in the morning as usual. Walking on the foggy Shu Road, when the sun came out, the patrolling Shu soldiers were shocked when they saw the stone cow on the Shu Road. When the Shu soldiers ran to the front of the stone cow to take a look, they were amazed. On the ground behind the stone cows, but there were a few big lumps of golden cow dung. It was real. At a glance, the cow dung looked like gold. The stone cows was stained with some golden cow dung. It seemed that the cow dung was quite fresh. The Shu army officer took a bite of the cow dung and found that the cow dung was actually real gold. He immediately ordered the people around him to protect the stone cow and then informed the higher-ups. Hearing that the Shu army found a stone cow that could carry golden cow dung on the Shu Road, the general at the pass heard the news and immediately rushed over to confirm it. The Shu army didn't dare to hide such a big matter and immediately reported it to the higher-ups. Soon, it was reported to the king of Shu. The lumps of golden cow dung were also handed over. Shu Imperial Palace. The king of Shu looked at the golden cow dung sent by his subordinates and bit it with his teeth. He immediately became excited and excited. There was only one thought in the king of Shu's mind. This was an auspicious sign from the heavens. The heavens had chosen him and gave him a stone cow that could carry gold. He had to bring the stone cow to the imperial palace. He had to pick up cow dung in the imperial palace every day to reach the peak of his life. But the stone cow was big and heavy. If he wanted to transport the stone cow from the Shu Road to the imperial palace, he had to repair the Shu Road. The Shu Road had to be repaired so that carriages and horses could travel. This was a waste of manpower and money. How could it be a problem to have golden cow dung? The king of Shu looked at the golden cow dung that was still stained with his saliva. He immediately waved his hand and ordered, "Open the Shu Road. You must transport the stone cow that can pull gold to the palace for me. Whoever dares to compete with me for cow dung will be beheaded by me. The stone cow is mine, so the cow dung is mine." Half a year later, the road to Shu was repaired. The Shu kingdom had wasted a lot of money and manpower, and complaints were heard everywhere. The king of Shu held a grand ceremony and welcomed the stone cow with golden cow dung on its buttocks into the palace. Every day, he had people put all kinds of grass, bean cakes, and other things in front of the stone cow, waiting for the stone cow to give him warm cow dung so that he could pick it up. The king of Shu even prepared a warehouse to store the golden cow dung. He was waiting to reach the peak of his life by picking up cow dung. But the stone cow didn't poop any cow dung. The Qin army followed the Shu Road and easily drove the army to the imperial palace of Shu. Xia Pinggan saw the fat king of Shu for the first time and was speechless. The stupidity of a ruler was almost vividly displayed by the king of Shu. Looking at the Qin army standing in front of him, the king of Shu shouted with a pale face, "I didn't expect. I will be harmed by a few lumps of cow dung." Chapter 513. As the realm bead shattered, Xiaopinggan's consciousness entered the secret temple of the mandala out of great curiosity. He wanted to see what kind of spell the realm bead that he had just fused with had brought him. A bronze relief of a stone cow clearing the way was in the temple. The bronze relief was the story of the stone cow clearing the way. In the relief, the stone cow of the Qin kingdom was glowing brightly. It was tied up by ropes and moving forward on the difficult path of Shu. The ropes were pulled by countless soldiers and soldiers of the Shu kingdom. Among them, there were 5 people who were exceptionally strong. In front of the stone cow, they were dragging a giant mill and holding a giant shovel and other objects to clear the way. The 5 people who were clearing the way were also glowing brightly. They were summoning slots. Unexpectedly, the realm bead provided 2 summoning spells. Stone cow dung gold, 5 ding clears the way. The relief fully revealed the story. Xiaopinggan immersed his consciousness into the summoning slot. He looked at the 5 ding clears and immediately understood. The 5 people who were clearing the way only needed 50 summoning slots to summon them together. After summoning the 5 ding clears, the 5 ding clears could be used to pave the way for the summoner. This was a labor support profession. It was somewhat rare, but there were not many uses for it for the summoner. Xiaopinggan immersed his consciousness into the summoning slot of the stone cow and felt the mystery of this spell. In an instant, Xiaopinggan was shocked. He felt his head buzzing and his mind trembling. His consciousness withdrew from the secret mandala. In the secret chamber, Xiaopinggan opened his eyes. There was a look of disbelief and shock in his eyes. This stone cow that can be summoned. Could it be dung gold? Xiaopinggan muttered to himself. The information he felt just now was too shocking, to the point that Xiaopinggan was a little suspicious. He would know after trying. Summoning the stone cow consumed an astonishing amount of divine power. It required 360 points of divine power each time. However, in order to test whether the stone cow he summoned had such an ability, Xiaopinggan directly summoned the stone cow. With a wave of his hand, A lifelike stone cow walked out of the mist beside Xiao Pingon and entered the secret chamber. The stone cow had a strong physique and looked very lively. Although its body looked like a stone, its movements were no different from a real cow. Its eyes were shining with golden light. The summoned stone cow came to Xiao Pingon and rubbed its head against Xiao Pingon. It was very intimate. Xiao Pingon looked around the underground secret chamber. There were not many metal objects in the secret chamber. There were only 2 copper lampstands with a fluorite on each lampstand. Xiao Pingon pointed at the copper lampstands. The summoned stone cow came in front of the lampstands and ate the 2 copper lampstands as if they were grass. It left the fluorite behind. After waiting for a long time, the stone cow softly mooed. It raised its tail and revealed its bright red buttocks that looked like a steel furnace. It then pooped out a lump of cow dung. The cow dung fell to the ground with a burning aura. However, it solidified in the blink of an eye. It looked like a golden lump of cow dung. Xiao Pingon waved his hand and brought the stone cow back to the secret altar. He then summoned a ball of water and dropped it on the burning cow dung on the ground. With a chi sound, water vapor rose and the burning cow dung completely cooled down. Xiao Pingon picked up the piece of cow dung and looked at it. The cow dung was not large in size. It was heavy in his hand like a piece of cow dung art made by a bored sculptor. F***, but it's really gold. The weight of the cow dung in his hand was the same as that of the 2 copper lampstands. However, judging from its density and color, it was not copper, but real gold. Of course, Xiao Pingon would not use his mouth to bite it. He only said 2 words, and with a slight force of his fingers, his 2 fingers were like knives, like iron scissors. In an instant, the piece of cow dung was cut into 2 from middle. From the cut, one could see that the inside was also golden. It was real gold. F***. This was the dream of the ancient alchemists. The so-called alchemy was to turn base metals into precious metals, gold. Under the technological conditions of ancient times, alchemy was destined to be an extravagant hope. Even under the technological conditions of modern times, different metals could be made into gold by means of atomic bombardment. However, the cost of atomic bombardment was far higher than the negligible value of gold that could be made. Atomic bombardment only proved the possibility of turning base metals into precious metals through science and experiments. However, the stone cow could directly turn the metal it ate into gold and poop out. It required 360 divine power to summon it once. After the divine cow ate enough metal, it could poop out a pile of golden cow dung of the same weight. What just pooped out was not even considered a pile. A pile of golden cow dung from the stone cow weighed about 20 to 30 kilograms. Ha ha ha. I won't be short of money in the future. Xiao Pingon laughed. His expression was wonderful. Although he was not short of money now, mastering the summoning spell of the stone cow that could poop out golden cow dung was still of great practical significance to a summoner. For a summoner, even if they ran out of divine power, they could recover it every month. Once they recovered and mastered this summoning spell, they could summon the stone cow and poop out golden cow dung immediately. This summoning spell was the real benefit for a summoner. As long as a summoner mastered this spell, they would be able to bid farewell to poverty forever. It was just that this realm pearl was relatively rare. Even if one obtained a realm pearl without a divine consciousness crystal, the chances of successfully fusing it were not high. At this moment, the upper limit of Xiaoping and Secret Mandala's divine power had increased to 7,788 points. It was an auspicious number, 88. Sure enough, he gained more divine power. After being happy for a while, Xiao Pingon looked at the time. It had only been more than 2 hours since he entered the secret room for closed-door training. It was still early, and the sky was not dark yet. He could continue to fuse with the remaining realm pearl. Xiao Pingon took out the remaining boundary pearl. The words Falling Tears Tablet were very conspicuous on the boundary pearl. Xiao Pingon put away his smile and looked more respectful. This boundary pearl said that it belonged to Yang Hu, a famous official of the Western Jin dynasty. Xiao also respected Yang Hu from the bottom of his heart. He was a person with great charisma, and even his enemies admired and respected him. When Yang Hu died, the soldiers guarding the border of the Wu kingdom shed tears for him. The people of the Jin dynasty built temples and erected tombstones to commemorate him. Every year, the people would also shed tears when they saw his tombstone. Hence, this was the origin of the falling tears tablet. Blood dripped, and in the blink of an eye, Xiao Pingan was surrounded by a black cocoon of light. Happy National Day, everyone! There's one more update tonight. Chapter 514. Lu Yiqian stayed muddle-headed in the dark cage for almost the whole night. From the voices outside, he knew that he was in an inn on Sea Snake Island. From the temperature difference outside, he knew that he had passed a night outside. Besides that, he didn't know anything else. On the second day, at daybreak, Lu Yiqian felt that his cage was lifted up by someone. After a short while, he had flown off. After flying for almost an hour, Lu Yiqian heard a lazy voice outside the cage. Well, I'm going to take off the cloth cover. Close your eyes and slowly adapt to it. If you become a blind monkey, don't blame me for not reminding you. After closing his eyes, Lu Yiqian found that he could speak again. After quite a while, he carefully covered his eyes with his hands and slowly opened his eyes. After revealing a wisp of light, he gradually adapted to the changes outside. At this moment, Sea Snake Island had already disappeared. Under his feet was the boundless undead sea, and above his head was the blue sky. Xiao Pingan had already left Sea Snake Island and was flying in the air. Given the direction of Xiao Pingan's flight, Xiao Pingan was flying towards Crouching Dragon Island. Outside Xiao Pingan's body, there was an invisible oval-shaped shield that blocked the astral winds in the air. Otherwise, Lu Yiqian, this caged monkey, would have been blown away in the air for half an hour without a single strand of hair remaining. As for what Xiao Pingan did on Sea Snake Island yesterday, Lu Yiqian didn't know at all. Master, have you taken the 2 realm pearls? Lu Yiqian was pretty depressed. However, he could only ask with a smile. Yes, I've taken them. You're honest. Xiao Pingan watched Lu Yiqian as he took out 2 bananas and handed them to Lu Yiqian. Here, your reward. Take these 2 bananas as an exchange for your 2 realm pearls. Look at me, how generous I am. These 2 bananas are reserved for guests in the inn. I've kept them especially for you. Thank you for your reward, Master. Lu Yiqian's heart was bleeding. However, he still pretended to be grateful. After taking the 2 bananas, he started to eat them without any hesitation. As Xiao Pingan flew, he looked at Lu Yiqian with a smile. Lu Yiqian was very obedient, but the more he was like this, the more Xiao Pingan felt that this guy was suppressing things in his heart and wasn't completely loyal to him. Lu Yiqian quickly finished his banana and pretended to be happy. He then sincerely suggested, Master, those 2 realm pearl spirit sense crystals are very hard to find, but I already have some clues. After leaving Crouching Dragon Island, Master can find time to go to Sky Dragon Mountain. In a few days, there will be a god slaying insect realm spirit sense crystal auction. Master can go try your luck and collect some spirit sense crystals that you can use. If you can find a spirit sense crystal that corresponds to those 2 realm pearls, that would be even better. Oh, where's Heavenly Dragon Mountain? It's 150,000 li southeast of the Undying Sea. There are many summoners gathering there. There are many scattered spiritual sense crystal veins near Heavenly Dragon Mountain. You can often dig out strange spiritual sense crystals. Therefore, Heavenly Dragon Mountain is the closest spiritual sense crystal distribution center to the Undying Sea. Okay, I got it. I'll go and take a look if I have time. Xiao Pingan said perfunctorily. Xiao Pingan had integrated with Yang, whose monument of Fallen Tears boundary pearl yesterday. Not only did he integrate with the Monument of Fallen Tears, but it was also a breakthrough integration. Xiao Pingan had done all the things that Yang Hu had done in history. Gao Pingling's rebellion, Sima Yi's killing of Qiao Shuang. Yang Hu's father-in-law, Xiahou Ba, surrendered to Shu Han in order to escape the massacre. Xiahou Ba's family members were all afraid of being implicated and hurriedly drew a clear line with Xiahou Ba's family. Many people even advised Xia Pinggan to divorce his wife. Not only did Xia Pinggan not divorce his wife, but he also treated Xiahou Ba's family members more courteously and took care of them more. Yang Hu's mother and eldest brother, Yang Fa, passed away one after another. Xia Pinggan observed the funeral rites and abstained from eating vegetables for more than 10 years. Sima Yin became the emperor and promoted Xia Pinggan to the rank of prefectural duke with 3,000 households. Xia Pinggan was conferred the title of duke and was only given the title of marquis. As for the things that Yang Hu had done in history after he arrived in Jingzhou, such as opening schools, initiating education, appeasing the people, reclaiming land, etc., Xia Pinggan followed the prescribed order step by step and did not miss a single thing. In history, Yang Hu had also done many things for the Wu Kingdom. He became good friends with the Wu Kingdom's envoy, Zhang Yin, and fought with the Wu Kingdom's military governor, Lu Kang. All of these became popular stories. When the Jin Kingdom soldiers caught the Wu Kingdom's general's child, Xia Pinggan ordered people to return the child to the Wu Kingdom. When the Jin Kingdom's army crossed the border and cut the Wu Kingdom's farmers' rice to be used as army rations, Xia Pinggan ordered people to calculate the amount and use silk to pay for the food. Even when the Wu Kingdom's hunters caught the prey that ran to the Jin Kingdom and were captured, Xia Pinggan also ordered people to return it to the Wu Kingdom. When Lu Kang fell ill, Xia Pinggan personally sent people to deliver medicine that could treat Lu Kang's illness. When the Wu Kingdom's surrendered soldiers wanted to leave, Xia Pinggan also generously let them leave and even gave them travel expenses. When Lu Kang sent him good wine, he also drank it in front of the envoy sent by Lu Kang. However, on the other hand, when the Wu Kingdom's generals Chen Shang and Pan Jing invaded Jingzhou of Jin, Xia Pinggan personally led the troops and chased them to death. After that, he gave them lavish gifts for their funeral. Chen Shang and Pan Jing's descendants came to receive the funeral, and Xia Pinggan returned the favor with gifts. When the Wu Kingdom's general Deng Xiang invaded Shako, Xia Pinggan offered a reward for capturing him alive. After he was captured, he released him, making Deng Xiang grateful to the point of tears. In the end, he led his subordinates to surrender. In this way, Xia Pinggan was respectfully referred to as Yang Gong in the mouth of the enemy. These were all Yang Hu's deeds, and Xia Pinggan had done them all. Xia Pinggan had also done what Yang Hu had not done in history. In history, when Yang Hu was young, there was a person who was good at reading the feng shui of tombs. He said that Yang Hu's ancestral tomb had the aura of an emperor. If the tomb was dug up, he would have no descendants. It was unknown what the Yang Hu in history was thinking, or perhaps it was because he was young and impetuous and did not believe it, but he really dug up his own ancestral grave. Therefore, when the tomb keeper saw the dug-up grave, he said, "Although your ancestral grave has been dug up, your family will still have the third duke who broke his arm." Later on, Yang Hu broke his arm when he fell off his horse and became the third duke without any descendants. Hence, the historical story of the third duke with a broken arm was left behind. This time, Xia Pinggan did not dig up his own ancestral tomb. Instead, he was very courteous to the tomb reader and rewarded him handsomely. In the Battle of Xiling, Xia Pinggan fought against Lu Kang. This time, Xia Pinggan did not lose. Instead, he tied with Lu Kang. In the end, Lu Kang took Xiling City. However, Xia Pinggan also protected the Buchan family and helped them escape from Xiling City and join Jin. In addition, Xia Pinggan did one more thing. He killed Sun Sun with his own hands and ended this scourge. Sun Sun was not famous in history. However, if one looked closely at his deeds from the perspective of the butterfly effect, he was definitely a sinner of Huaxia. He deserved to die. The rebellion of the 8 princes in West Jin was triggered by the rebellion of the 8 princes in West Jin. The culprit of the rebellion of the 8 princes was Emperor Jin Hui's wife, Jia Nanfeng. Jia Nanfeng was ugly, vicious, and stupid. while Emperor Jin Hui was weak and cowardly. Having such a wife, he lived a miserable life. What many people didn't know was that Sima Yin was a man of great vision. He married Jian Nanfeng as his daughter-in-law by mistake, mainly because he was deceived by Sun Sun. Back then, when Sima Yin wanted to depose the crown prince, Sima Zhong, it was Sun Sun who tried his best to stop him. Because he married the wrong daughter-in-law, the empire was destroyed and a great historical disaster was caused in West Jin. The most important person behind all this was Sun Sun. Sun Sun's motive for directing the most tragic marriage in Huaxia history was that Jian Nanfeng's father, Jia Chong, was appointed to guard Chang'an. For his own selfish reasons, he didn't want Jia Chong to leave the capital. Therefore, he set Jia Chong up to be the crown prince's father-in-law. Xiao Pinggan wasn't sure how much history could be changed by killing Sun Sun, but it didn't matter. In history, Yang Hu died of illness at the age of 58. However, Xiao Pinggan in the Realm Pearl was still alive and kicking at the age of 58. His body was strong, and his martial arts were outstanding. Furthermore, after Liu Kang's death, Xiao Pinggan effortlessly took over Wu country's Jing province. Xiao Pinggan didn't know how the situation changed after that. When the realm bead of the teardrop monument shattered, Xiao Pinggan conquered Wu Kingdom's Jing province without any effort. Then, he went to visit Liu Kang's grave with wine. After that, the realm bead shattered. After the breakthrough of the realm bead of the teardrop monument, the divine power in Xia Ping and secret mandala surged by 180 points. When Xiao Pinggan left the Sea Snake Island, the upper limit of his divine power finally broke through 8,000 points, reaching 8,004 points. If history changed according to the direction he had changed in the realm bead, would the tragedy of the 5 barbarians' chaos be avoided? Or could the West Jin dynasty turn out like what Yang Hu told Sima Yin in the end? Could the West Jin dynasty destroy Wu Kingdom easily and unify the world without a fight? Could the West Jin dynasty usher in a prosperous era? Flying in the sky, Xiao Pinggan's head was filled with this question. No matter how hard he tried to deduce, there were countless possibilities. Most of the time, the direction of history was actually decided by the butterfly effect caused by some accidental events. This was the most magical part of history. A few days later, Xiao Pinggan came to Crouching Dragon Island again. The last time he came to Crouching Dragon Island, he came with Lord Mingi. This time, Xiao Pinggan came alone with a monkey in a cage. From a distance, Xiao Pinggan saw the undulating mountain range in the center of Crouching Dragon Island. Sea Snake Island and Crouching Dragon Island were in the Undying Sea and were not too far from each other. Master, the main thing is to bring my token to the 10,000 treasure hall. Take it out and tell the 10,000 treasure hall to take out the things stored in the token. Then, the 10,000 treasure hall will give the realm bead to you. It's very easy. Other than the realm bead, I still have more than 60 million gold coins in the 10,000 treasure hall. Liu Qian opened his eyes wide in the cage and said sincerely to Xiao Pinggan. Electric light jumped on Xiao Pinggan's fingertips again. The monkey in the cage screamed and went into shock again from the electric shock. Smoke rose from his body. Xiao Pinggan glanced at Liu Qian in the cage. Did I allow you to speak? Liu Qian said it very casually. But for some reason, the closer they got to Crouching Dragon Island, the more nervous Xiao Pinggan became. This was not the case when they went to the Sea Snake Island. You're tuning into the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.